The time is 7:05. Welcome to the public hearing, PA 490 Open Space Ordinance. Sheila, roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Sakala. Here. Mayor Corsati.
Here.
Councilor Despard.
Here.
Councilor Finger.
Here.
Councilor Hopkins.
Here.
Councilor Ludwig.
Here.
Councilor Mangini.
Here.
Councilor Nelson. Here. Councilor Pisner.
Here.
Councilor Santinella.
Here.
And Councilor Ungary.
Here.
11 members are present and none are absent.
The following notice of public hearing was published in the Hartford Courant on Tuesday, July 4th, 2023. Town of Enfield legal notice. The Enfield Town Council will hold a public hearing in the Enfield Town Hall Council Chambers, 820 Enfield Street, Enfield, Connecticut, on Monday, July 17th, 2023. The time now is at 7:05 to allow interested residents an opportunity to express their opinions regarding the matter of the PA 490 Open Space Ordinance dated this 30th day June 2023. Sheila M. Bailey, the town clerk. The ground rules, there is no time limit, but I ask that each person not take out too much time so that everybody will have an opportunity to speak. After each person who desires had a chance to speak, I shall permit those individuals a second chance and so forth. Please refrain from personalities. The public hearing is now open. Is there anybody that would like to come forward in regard to the public hearing, in regard to the PA 490 Open Space Ordinance? Second time? Oh.
Kelly Hemmler, 10 Hartford Ave. The 490, I'm not as up to date as a lot of people. However, I know how important farms are. I know how important open space is, and we need to make sure that those are maintained. So please do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to come forward for this public hearing? Yes.
Karen LaPlante, 166 North Maple Street, former member of the Conservation Commission. We worked really hard on this ordinance, and in the past 15, 20 years that I was on the Conservation Commission, I saw many opportunities for us to purchase open space. And when it got to staff and the town manager level, nothing was done. So it seems only fair, if we are not going to preserve open space, then we have to give some incentive for the citizens to do it on their own, where they may choose to continue to pay taxes, but at least get a break on it. We were told one reason or another, and sometimes never a reason, and then when our money was spent, it was spent on something that totally didn't make sense. So I personally would appreciate this being passed, so at least we can get some open space out there. I'm a little disappointed in a few of the things that are on there, but let's get it out there and see what we can do with it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to come forward for a first time, second time, third? I declare this public communication over, and the public hearing is closed. Thank you very much. All right, good evening, everyone. We're going to I will welcome everybody to our regular meeting, July 17th, 2023. The time is 7:10 to the council chambers. This meeting can also be viewed on YouTube. Once again, welcome. And we will open up with Mike Ludwig prayer tonight.
Good evening, everyone. Middle of summer, a prayer for a sense of humor. Grant us, O Lord, good digestion, and also something to digest. Grant us all a healthy body and the necessary good humor to maintain it. Grant us all simple souls that knows to treasure all that is good and doesn't frighten easily at the sight of evil, but rather finds the means to put things back in their proper place. Please provide us a soul that knows no boredom, doesn't grumble, doesn't sigh, and laments, nor has excess stress. Grant us, O Lord, a good sense of humor. Allow us the grace to be able to take a joke, to discover in our lives just a little bit of joy, and most importantly, to share that joy with others. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sheila, roll call, please.
Counselor Ludwig.
Here.
Counselor Mangini.
Here.
Counselor Nelson.
Here.
Counselor Pisner. Counselor Santinella.
Here.
Counselor Ungary. Here. Deputy Mayor Sakala. Here. Mayor Corsati.
Here.
Counselor Despard.
Here.
Counselor Finger.
Here.
And Counselor Hopkins.
Here.
11 members are present, none are absent.
Okay, next, the fire evacuation. In the event of a fire, there are exits in the back of the chambers, and to my left in the audience is right. Exit through the doors, go down the stairs, and into the parking lot. Next, minutes of preceding meetings. First, do I have a motion to accept the minutes of the special meeting on June 19th, 2023?
So moved.
Counselor Mangini, and a second by Counselor Nelson. By a show of hands, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, so it looks like we have 10 in favor, 1 abstention. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes of the regular meeting, June 19th, 2023? So moved. Counselor Mangini. Second. And a second by Deputy Mayor Sakala. By a show of hands, all in favor? Opposed? Abstention? Okay, we have two abstentions and nine in favor. And thirdly, do I have a motion to accept the minutes of the special meeting on June 26, 2023? Counselor Ungary, and a second by Counselor Mangini. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? And one abstention.
I remoted in late to that meeting. However, I did go back and watch it. I remoted in late because I got the wrong link that night. So I'm fine with abstaining from it, but, you know, I was here partly, so you guys decide.
Okay, 10 in favor, 1 abstention. Okay. All right, thank you. There are no special guests tonight. Next will be public communications. Once again, before we start with public communications, I do want to remind everyone that you'll have 5 minutes to address the council. Please refrain from any personal attacks, personnel matters. We're not going to respond during public comment, but we may afterwards during our comments. And as a reminder to everyone, this is not a forum to air grievances or discuss town employees. And once again, I want to just remind everyone that I really expect proper decorum. That's from us as counselors and from the public. So when you come on up, just state your name and address, and we'll move forward with tonight's meeting.
Good evening. Nikki Price, 1324 Enfield Street. The Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Agency, IWWA, at their May 2nd meeting voted and passed for a soil scientist to delineate the property at 92 Post Office Road to determine where the wetlands begin and end in this area. The question to ask now, when did the town council direct the town manager, town attorney, or town staff to interfere with a state agency in circumventing their authority in this matter? Especially when the IWWA did not request commentary. If you are not aware they are a state agency, I'd like to read into the record the opening webpage of the state of Connecticut IWWA. Connecticut has a long history of protecting its land and water resources. In 1972, the state legislature enacted the Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Act, IWWA. This law provides an orderly regulatory process that balances the need for economic growth with the need to protect our environment. The IWWA declares it is the public policy of Connecticut to require municipalities' regulations of activities affecting inland wetlands and watercourses. As a result, every municipality has established an inland wetlands agency to implement and enforce the law. These agencies play a vital role in protecting our natural resources and in shaping our state's landscape. The DEP's Inland Wetlands Management Program assists Connecticut's 169 municipalities and the public in administrating and understanding the IWWA. For additional information, please view the links provided on the left side. After watching the IWWA's meeting of June 6, I looked in the master packet for Michelle Menard's comments pertaining to the delineation being overruled by the town staff to submit them into tonight's records. Not surprisingly, it is absent from the master packet. A copy has been obtained to be included in the record because Mrs. Maynard poetically summed up the lack of knowledge, fairness, and impartiality within our town staff to the detrimental effects of public interest. Quickly turning our attention to the Board of Assessment Appeals, the meeting they held on July 12, 2023 deserves a shout out for providing valuable information to the Enfield taxpayer as to the town assessor's misconduct, which is echoed by Attorney Coppola's televised stated remarks on June 5th. While we find that Mr. Helms mostly complied with the law, at the town manager's request seeking guidance from this governing body as to your recommendations, please include the assessor's office should always comply with the law. Thank you and respectfully submitted.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening.
Good
George
evening.
Hendrickson, 26 Roy Street. I'm here tonight to thank Ms. Colleen for her customer service when I went to go pay my taxes. When I got the bill, it was wrong again. It was 100% put somewhere else, nothing off the car. I was very angry. But when I got there, Ms. Colleen, she helped me out. She made the adjustment. The computer was down. She couldn't actually fix anything, but she did the calculations, handed it to me. I went and I paid my taxes. So I thought that I should just come here and say that thank you to her. And if you know who she is, I would ask you to do the same because she did a fantastic job. The second thing I'd like to discuss is that I watched a video on the 26th of June, and during that meeting, one of the employees said that an exemption shouldn't be given in perpetuity. And I thought that if I qualify for the exemption in perpetuity, it should be given to me in perpetuity. You said not to talk about employees, so I don't want to mention no names, but we all know. And then finally, my wife is complaining about the speeding on my street. We have people that come down Roy Street, they come down like a bat out of HE double hockey sticks, and she doesn't like it, so she said, Master Sergeant, go there and tell them. So here I am, and I'm telling you that I need a speed bump somewhere near my house. I don't know how to get it done, so if somebody would, reach out to me. and let me know what I need to do to get it done. Maybe a petition for the whole block or something else. If I got to chip in, I'll do that too. Okay? We cool? All right? Y'all have a good evening, and hopefully I will have to come back here and yell at you again. All right.
All right. Thank you.
You welcome.
I like your T-shirt.
It makes a statement for this evening.
Good evening, everyone. Robert Bukowski, 21 Francis Avenue. I'd like to start by showing something to the TV viewers at home, which you've already seen. Take a good look at that, folks. That's a pile of vomit on Francis Avenue in front of number 4, and the poor lady that lived on number 4 had to go out and take a picture of that Saturday morning. It's not the first complaint about vomiting on Francis Avenue. People have been complaining about it since October. Nobody's taken a picture, so maybe this will help solve the problems that we have. But this is disgusting on top of everything else we've mentioned. So, this is what the town council has allowed since October. This is what you've allowed. Tonight, you can be heroes and you can stop all this. You can vote against it. We can all maybe like you or vote for you, I'm not sure. But you can be heroes, you can stop this. This is not a political issue. This is a moral issue. There should be a unanimous vote here. There shouldn't be any disagreement with regards to all the bad behavior that's been occurring month after month after month with no real permanent action on your part. You live here. These people are doing this in your town. Why do you let it continue? Why is this business so sacred? Does the town council and town manager care more about sales tax revenue to the state, or do you care about the people on Francis Avenue? We pay more in property taxes than the owner of the building at 524 Enfield Street. We pay more in property taxes than Jimmy's Pub pays in sales tax revenue. Estimate $500,000 of revenue every year, $30,000 in sales tax. Why is he so sacred? Why have you protected him since October? For those of you who think planning and zoning will solve this problem, or even the courts, no, not at all. Right now, there is no entertainment at Jimmy's Pub. All he has is karaoke. He does not have DJ entertainment. He does not have live band entertainment. So planning and zoning can do nothing. They can just ban live entertainment. It's already banned, and this is what we have. And we still have these problems unless you do something. It's never going to get back to the way it was before 2022. It's a different clientele. It's different business hours. It's never going to be the old Jimmy's Pub. He's way too popular now. It's just a different place. So the solution is, the best solution, the only one, is resident parking only, violators towed at their own expense, or possibly, I've never mentioned this before, booting. Reference Connecticut General Statute 7-148 gives you the authority to do towing and booting. Towing is not rocket science. We do not need a 4-month study by 3 different committees. The town manager can call any one of 50 other town managers in the state of Connecticut and ask for their procedures. It's as simple as that. We can also use our winter towing policy as a model, tweak that a little bit. We can waive any bidding process temporarily. Do not make this a bureaucratic, cumbersome process. It's not rocket science. It can be done. It's not a political issue. It's a moral issue. We really should have unanimous support. Once again, resident parking only, violators to be towed at their own expense or booted. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else that would like to approach the council tonight?
Thank you. Tom Tyler, 18 Bridge Lane. Just to let you know that I received scores of calls and contacts from citizens and taxpayers after last week's BAA special meeting, and they talked about three things. One was they were extremely appreciative to finally get the information and a lot of critical information that we hadn't been able to impart to them for the past year. The second thing was they wanted to know, do we think the council was listening? And they also asked who was at our meeting. And so I'd like to specify and thank those people that did make it in alphabetical order. Nick Hopkins, Michael Ludwig, Ken Nelson, Marie Pisner, and Lori Ungeheyer. And we thank you for taking the time out to show that you cared and so on. I also have to acknowledge two other people that could not make it because of personal commitments previously. So they did ask for and received a link to the video as well as the attachment. And that would be Mayor Crissati, who reached out and had a prior commitment. And I know that Doug Fingers also was preoccupied with a family matter that he had to attend to. So thank you and kudos to you for that. The third thing that people talked a lot about is they wanted to know, did the Smith Farm and Dairy, our Trinity Farms and the Smith family get their refund check yet? So to just bring you quickly up to date on that, Trinity Farms, when they came in the spring, asked for an inspection by the BAA at one of their hearings. And so Lori Longi, a BAA member, went and inspected the property and discovered that there was a large farm building on, but only one farm building, but there's two parcels there, and it had been put on both parcels for assessment and tax purposes. So in essence, it was double taxed. And so the board, as part of our decisions, passed a resolution letting the tax assessor know of this error and asked them to correct it, and of course issue a refund to the Smith family for the preceding year anyway, when they had overpaid on two parcels. Lori also had mapped out, and part of her resolution was telling the tax assessor put it on one parcel and not the other parcel, and we directed which one to put it on, which we believe was in the best interests of both the Smith family and the town of Enfield. So as of Wednesday night, the 12th of July, no refund had been issued to our knowledge. Our notice to our resolution to the tax assessor was back in April 28th. From last Wednesday night through today, I understand still nothing's been done. They haven't received their refund. And I did note and want to note that the tax assessor was at our meeting, the finance manager was at the meeting, and the assistant town manager was at the meeting Wednesday night. And you would have thought that the first thing Thursday morning, they'd be moving heaven and earth to make this situation right for the Smith family, Trinity Farms, and the town of Enfield. But as I sit here today, I don't think anything has been done. If it is, they haven't gotten their money yet. I think that's unconscionable. Thank you.
Okay.
Kelly Hemler, 10 Hartford Avenue. In a prior town council meeting, there was a discussion about $1.4 million Enfield taxpayers were overtaxed. The town manager stated that it was complicated and confusing, and that is a quote. I have a message to the Enfield taxpayers. You are being gaslighted. It is not complicated or confusing, and I'll explain. I'll use round figures. The Board of Education budget is $76 million. No matter how much the state contributes, whether it's $1 or $70 million, they're going to get that amount. The town budgeted that the state would only give them $28 million, but that is not true. Not only did the state education budget set for 2 years last year, we're also in an alliance district, which means the ECS funding is frozen and it will not change. When the town budgeted $28 million, that means that the Enfield taxpayers are on the hook for $48 million. If they had budgeted it correctly, then the state would pay $29 million, which they did or will soon, and the taxpayers would only be on the hook for $47 million. Because of this, the Enfield taxpayers paid an additional $1.4 million too much, and there's a possibility the year before $1.2 million also. When the Republicans questioned it, the Democrat majority accused them of not supporting children's education, which is ridiculous. All the Republicans on the town council raised their children in Enfield school system. Some of them have grandkids. 3 out of 5 of them have adult children that are currently teachers. Do you really believe? He's not even looking. Do you really believe that they don't care about education and Enfield children? I contend that the Democrat majority on the town council are disrespectful to who is paying the bills, the Enfield taxpayer. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to approach the council?
Hello, my name is Ann Dugas. I live at 1269 Enfield Street. Can you hear me okay? Seems quiet. My farm is at 4 Oliver Road here in town. My brother Samuel Smith and I are 4th generation dairy farmers in Enfield. Sam and I, along with an amazing team that include our parents, my husband, and our 2 children, operate Smith's Trinity Farm. We milk 40 cows and bottle the milk the cows give us in glass bottles on site. The property in question tonight is used to house our herd, rotationally graze our herd, and bale hay, in a good growing season, 3 cuts of hay to feed our herd. This spring, Sam and I filled out an appeal application questioning a new categorized commercial category for our under 200-foot farm stand. Many here tonight have enjoyed milk from our farm on a weekly basis or as an occasional treat or spot to bring your children or grandchildren to show them the open land we are stewards of and to see our beautiful cows. Most of you here tonight may remember during the October storm in 2011 that one of our refrigerated milk trucks was parked outside the emergency shelter at Enfield High School during those hard days. We provided milk and nourishment to the people of Enfield. Others here tonight may remember when COVID hit and the major grocery stores here in town ran out of milk, that we extended our hours at the farm stand. We even bought in milk from another farm during that time period to supply the citizens of Enfield. And most days we worked 20 hours to provide the citizens of Enfield fresh, wholesome milk. I see a lot of familiar faces here tonight. Please bring back your milk bottles. In all seriousness, this appeals process has been a hardship on our small family farm. If there is such a thing as a perfect week in farming, things are hard enough. We work with live animals, depend on the weather for harvest, and pay large sums of money for utilities and commodities. My brother works another full-time job off the farm for insurance, as does my husband. The farm supports our parents and staff. We carry licenses with the Connecticut Department of Agriculture, a prestigious IMS license, which is overseen by the FDA, which allows us to go, we could sell milk in 50 states, all 50 states if we wanted to. We fill out our town of Enfield equipment list every October and try to pay our taxes on time. Tonight we are asking for our farm stand to be taxed as a farm and not commercial. Tonight we are asking for an overpayment of taxes back to us in a timely manner. We were double charged for land under one of our barns for 2 years, and we want our refund back, please. I filled out 2 forms asking for overpayment on taxes. One was a vehicle tax, and we have since received that one. But I brought in our request for refund of property taxes with that original, with the other form, and the assessor himself came to the counter and told me that I had reached the statute of limitations and wasn't going to get anything back on that. So that's not how I understood it. I understood that the statute of limitations expires on 10/1, so I filled out another request of the property taxes specifically to Oliver Road and 1491 King Street, Lot 94. On your map ID, it's 0170094 and 0180279. The double taxation is on our big barn. It's 11,000 square feet. And the assessor's office did receive that. They stamped it for me on July 6th. So it's taken a lot of time out of everybody's schedule, and I know you guys have a lot more important things to do, but we would really like our tax money back. Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody else that would like to approach the council? Yep.
Melanie Dubiel, 4 Francis Avenue. The vomit was in front of my house, and there was also other instances. I had a graduation party for my daughter on June 30th, and we rented a big water slide. I understand Ken can't control his patrons, but that should not be my problem either. So the sign that was put out in front of my house, his patrons came out of Pizza Palace and kicked it across my yard for no reason at all. I've got it all on the Ring camera. So I'm asking police to do residential parking only. We should not have to deal with this anymore. It's 100 degrees outside. We all know what vomit smells like when it's that hot. And this is right in front of my house. So I go out in my front yard and you get whiffs of vomit. And the lady that was there, we saw her pull up. She wouldn't get out of her truck until after we all left. We were all hanging out in my front yard. She didn't leave until, I believe it was about 4 o'clock that she pulled up in front of our house. Why she pulled up in front of my house, I don't know, instead of the parking lot. But she didn't leave until, I think it was 11:30. I'm not saying anything, I'm not accusing anybody, but usually I've had several instances where you drink too much and you vomit. So obviously she was intoxicated too, because she was the only one in the vehicle. And to do that much vomit, that was left over from the rain that we had Friday night. That picture was taken Saturday morning. So I just want you all to picture of the wipies, the garbage, and the huge pile of vomit that was left over after a major rainstorm that was left in my front yard. So please, residential parking only on Francis Avenue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Donna Dubanowski, 23 Betty Road. Good evening, everybody. I want to thank the Enfield taxpayers who came out on Wednesday night for the BAA meeting. I must say the room was crowded. I want to thank those counselors that attended: Mike Ludwig, Lori Ungeier, Marie Pisner, Ken Nelson, Nick Hopkins. Doug, I know we spoke and your grandchildren were in from out of state. To me, that was way more important than attending the BAA meeting. Your continued support for the BAA, to have our special meeting so we can update all of you. And just to be clear, it's not that we don't like the outcome of the report. What we have said is we have actual facts that differ from the report, and we want to make sure that everyone who has read the report knows the facts. Regarding the farmers and 2021 grand list, because of the error that we made with the 100% assessment versus the 70% assessment values, the October 1st grand list date is important for many reasons. One is you were able to file an appeal, say for automobiles, for the October 1st, 2020 grand list. You need to do it in September of 2023. We are always appealing the previous year's grand list. Remember, the taxes have to be paid, and you are reimbursed after the fact if your appeal is granted. Appeals for residential, commercial, and personal property are held in the spring. So for the October 1st, 2023 grand list, you will appeal before February of 2024. If there's an extension given to the assessor, then that date is March of 2024. We have confirmed with the assistant assessor that the October 1, 2022 grand list credit was adjusted prior to the bills going out. The farmers should double check their assessments that they're correct, though, and we want to make sure that they're not at the 100% value, but at the 70% value for both years. Also, farmers need to request the refund from the tax collector if they are due any money from the October 1st, 2021 grand list. Form is on the town website under the assessor's forms. Thank you again to everyone that came out the other night, and I am looking forward to being able to update the entire council at our special meeting that's going to be held. Thank you.
Okay, does anybody else like, Ken?
Good evening, Ken Bedard, 27 Burnham Street. I'm sorry we're still dealing with this. You've heard all the complaints from Francis Avenue. Some of them are factual, some of them are not. The only difference between what's going on now and what was going on 30, 40 years ago is the residents have Ring cameras, and now they have evidence of things that are going on and notifications to wake them up so that they can just get pissed off, pardon the term. But when we did the renovations, we were granted a permit with overflow street parking from the zoning department. They said we have so many spaces with a handicap, and everything else, overflow parking, will go on the street. And we've taken that away from us for the past 8 months. It's cost us over $100,000 in lost sales because of a couple of squeaky wheels. And I get their quality of life issues. I've tried to work with them. We have offered compromise after compromise after compromise. They compromised on one thing, letting us monitor the street for 2 weeks. And you know what? We resolved the issues. We stopped all of the BS that's going on that street. But when we had the meeting the following Monday, it wasn't good enough. They don't want the cars on the street. Well, it's not a perfect world. We all live in this town. We all go places. We have to have places to park. I'm sorry that you have a home behind commercial property. You drove by it when you looked at your house to buy it. So you knew what was there. It has changed. We've upgraded it. It's a much nicer place to be. It's no longer a dive bar. We stopped the people that kicked the sign on their lawn. We threw them out. That's why they were angry, and they kicked their sign. They didn't deserve to have their sign kicked. Absolutely not. But we threw them out because they were being jerks. They were there one night, and they came back another night, and they behaved just as poorly as they did. So we told them, get out and don't come back. We do monitor what goes on that street, and we put in close to $1 million into that building that we don't own. Shame on me for doing that, to a building that I don't own. But I thought it would be better for the community to have a nicer place to go, to give everybody a better place to go. And now they're trying to shut us down. They've taken away the parking. We've lost sales, and we continue to lose sales because people don't want to come there because there's no place to park. They can't park on the side street. And again, I get the quality of life issues. And I've tried to work with the residents, and to no avail. Nothing is good enough for them. I would love to be able to help them out, put somebody on the street. We did that. It worked. It was successful. And they're not happy with cars on the street. I asked people when they were coming down the street, if you had more than 3 people in the car, 2 people in the car, drop them at our driveway, let the driver go down, and I asked them not to use their alarm when they lock the car so it doesn't make any noise. All they should do is have the slamming of the door. And it worked. It worked for 2 weekends. I don't know what else I can do. We've offered everything. All they want is what they want. They want resident parking only. They are dug in on that, and they should not get it. It's a public street. If they want to have an HOA and make it a homeowners association, God bless them, give it to them. But it's a public street. It's open to the public, not just the residents. We all pay taxes on that street. It's not fair to this business that they get to shut down parking at 10 p.m. It's always been there. It's been there since 1964, and it should continue that way. And I will still continue to work with them. My family thinks I'm an idiot for trying to work with them, but at the end of the day, I'm in business, and I have to respect my neighbors, and I want to get along with people, and I want to be able to use the street for our overflow parking. It has cost us enough money and affected our business in a negative way, more than these people realize. And we pay, by the way, Bob, over $250,000 in property taxes and state sales tax every year. So your figures are wrong. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to come in front of the council? Okay.
Well, you heard his side of the story. My name is Joel Budd. I live in 2 Francis Avenue. This hasn't been going on just the last 120 days. This has been going on for 2 years. I mean, we'd come home on the weekend, you couldn't even get down the street, there were so many cars. And a certain person tells us that we shouldn't park on the street, but at 2:30 in the morning, and people are screaming and yelling. Yeah, it happened 2 weeks there that he came out and was standing out there, having people dropped off, and then they drive down the street, park their cars. But at 2:30 in the morning, they get out of there, half in the bag, screaming and yelling, urinating over everybody's lawns, come right up to our houses and urinating on our bushes in front of our houses. And I could tell you some other things too that went on out there, but that trying to work with us is not working. Last weekend they had a big thing over there, I don't know what it was, bull riding or something. And there was nobody parked on the street because he was telling them to park someplace else. So I just assumed that he was parking over at the hardware store. And it was fine. There were, I don't know how many people were in there, but they were coming in flocks from across the street or next door. So apparently he's got parking someplace else, but he says no. He says he's got to park on the street, but that place is constantly busy over there. I mean, all the time. And we're putting up with all the BS that comes out of there at night. I mean, screaming and yelling, people playing basketball with the kids' basketball hoop across the street. It's just gotten out of hand, and it's about time somebody does something about it. So I'd like to see one of you people put up with that crap over there. But it's gotten way out of hand. So no matter what he says, he's right. It's not working for him or us. So I hope you guys vote on it tonight and put it residential parking only, or all others will be towed. So thank you.
Okay, is there anybody else? Yep.
Hi, Sydney Bedard, 2 Oak Ridge Drive. It's just going to be super quick. If we're going to talk about screaming and yelling, it can't be a one-sided story, because there's been multiple weekends, probably the past month or so, there's been people outside of the first couple of houses of the street that have been saying, I'm not going to get into the details of it, it's not appropriate to be saying on the television, but nasty racial slurs to my dad. He was out there. and they're screaming at him. Like, we're going to talk about what our clientele is doing. You know what? I get it. People are not good people these days, you know? They do whatever they want, but if we're going to talk about screaming and yelling, don't forget to include what your party says, because the people you're hosting at your 4th of July or graduation party, they're out there doing the same thing. So you're going to excuse their actions and just let it go? Literally last weekend, Saturday night, my dad was out there monitoring the streets, making sure everything was okay. A white car pulled out of one of the first 2 houses, picked up a group of guys, drove away, and they're screaming not nice things to my dad just sitting there trying to monitor the streets. You try to do good, but guess what? Clearly nothing is good enough. When is enough going to be enough? So I'm just saying, I get it. There's so much evidence of what has happened, but you got to understand, this is not like a one-sided story. It's not just our clientele doing things. There's other people involved in this that is not being brought to the table. So I hope you guys can take that into consideration tonight about resident-only parking. And you know what? If that's what it's going to take to make this be decent, you know what? Do it. Put a gate up. But they should be paying an HOA fee, because this is a public road. Can I get a private road on my road, like resident only? Why can't every other road in Enfield be that way if that's how it's going to be? It's just literally not fair, and I don't know. This is just going on way too long, and the fact that this is still a thing is just absurd. We all pay taxes. Every single one of you guys up there pay taxes, and you have the right to use the road, but guess what? You won't soon if this is what's going to happen. So just think about it.
Is there anybody else that would like to approach the council? Okay, thank you. Public communications are over.
How about a 3-minute session? I thought that was just a 5-minute session. I'd like to come back. I thought that was the 5-minute session, then we get a 3-minute session.
You get your 3-minute session if you want to hang around for the end of the,
Can't be done now?
no.
All right,
Public communications are over, and I'm not going to go back and forth with you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Look forward to your vote, though.
Okay, next, Councilor Communications. Just hold on 1 second. Right. I was going to let Councilor Despard, then I'm going to let you go. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So ever since COVID's been receding and it's been safe to do so, I've been holding constituent office hours at Fermi on the first Wednesday of each month. And this month, the biggest topic was car assessment and appeals. You know, a lot of people aren't happy with their car assessments, which I totally understand. And so I just wanted to bring that to this platform and make sure people understand that it is well within their right to appeal them, and the process to do so is going to happen in September, and you can walk in. Those dates will be set at the end of August, and we will widely publicize those when they happen. And then I just wanted to say, my next office hours will be August 2nd, Wednesday. It's at Fermi Annex. It's been a really cool experience, not just for constituents to come and talk about any concerns or ideas, but also for neighbors to connect. It's been kind of neat in that way. And then I did just want to mention that yesterday afternoon in Hazardville, we had a pretty serious fire, and it was put out pretty quickly because we have a really great fire departments in this town. But unfortunately, the family's been displaced, and basically all their belongings and their 3 pets have perished. So was hoping to get some prayer and some positive thoughts headed their way. There is a GoFundMe if anyone's interested in helping out. It's on my page. It's also linked in the Patch article. And that's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Mangini.
Thank you. One concern that I've been observing lately, people, pedestrians, trying to walk in our strip mall parking lots. We have many vehicles, cars, trucks, forgetting about speed limit and almost wiping people out as they're walking. The message I'm trying to deliver here is that pedestrian fatalities have risen, and we need to consciously be aware that there are people, children, animals, crossing all the time. And there's no reason why people need to be speeding through these strip mall parking lots, and including Stop and Shop, ShopRite. It's horrendous. There were 3 incidents last week that I saw people almost get hit. So we really, really, really need to be aware, especially summertime when everybody is out and about, to be careful and to watch out for other people that are on foot. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other councilor communications? Ken? Councilor Nelson.
First, Jimmy's Pub, I'm going to wait till we address it on the agenda. Through the mayor to the town manager, when I was on the council years ago, we got a grant for all the street lighting in Hazardville and in Thompsonville, the black poles, the fancy poles. I don't know about Hazardville, but Thompsonville's look atrocious. All the access covers are missing, the paint's peeling off of them. It is town property, and I think maybe if we spent a little more time taking care of our own property, maybe the property owners down there might follow suit. So if we can have DPW address this, order the missing covers, and paint the poles to try to save them, I'd appreciate that. And then next, through the mayor to the town attorney, what is our legal right as a town to stop these papers from being thrown at the bottom of our driveways twice a week? People leave them there. They plug the storm drains. I personally have requested the Hartford Courant 10 times to stop delivering them to my house. And this is harassment. And if I were to throw something in anybody's yard here, I'd get a ticket for littering. How do they get away with doing it? And especially when you've requested that they stop. So I would like to know your opinion on what we could do to ban it altogether in the town of Enfield. If they want to deliver them, they can do it through the post office like everybody else has to do. My bills don't get thrown at the bottom of my driveway every week. I wish they did, but they don't. So under the town manager's report, if you could just give me your opinion, or if you need time. Next, the report from the report about the assessment that's going on. I do agree. It was pretty vague when it came to the assessor. And the one thing that really gets to me is the comment that he mostly followed the law. We paid this law firm a lot of money, and I want to know what laws he didn't follow. And it should be listed out. And there's 3 other comments in there that are very vague that should be listed out. Also, he sat here and he said publicly that he would look into the Delorge case himself free of charge, which he has done. And he caught me before the meeting downstairs, and he said he came up with his conclusions. I'm not going to say what they are right now. He told me that himself. And I want him to put them in writing, like he did that report. He offered to do it. He did it. I want him in writing like he did the entire report. And I would like it done sooner than later, and I'm surprised it's not done yet because everybody sitting here wants to wrap this up. So if we can ask him to do that, I would appreciate it. And the last thing that really, 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 I'm going to say it pisses me off, the town of Enfield overcharges residents on their taxes, okay? I don't know who did it or why it happened, and that's not what I'm addressing right now. What I'm addressing is it's known that, and I'm going to use Trinity Farms, it is a fact they're owed money. And there were emails going back and forth that they have to fill out this letter and they have to submit this. Why? when you overcharge somebody, it's theft. The town of Enfield should be dropping what they're doing and cutting these people their money back immediately. This is wrong in the worst way. What are we hoping, that residents don't know they're due a reimbursement and they forget about it and the town gets to keep the money? That's not how I operate in business, and I don't think the town should either. So tomorrow morning, I'm asking this council to direct the town to issue the refund to Trinity Farms and anybody else who's owed money because of a town error. It's not right. It's not right the way this town's doing business to our residents. They're our friends, families, and neighbors. This farm, if I lose my strawberry milk, I'm going to be pissed. So I'm asking you guys to support me on this and show you care about the residents. Thank you.
You're welcome. I have a couple of comments to make, then I'll direct them off to you guys. I'm not going to wait last today. Okay. I usually wait last, but tonight I'm not going to. First of all, for everybody that did come up and make their comments, definitely listening to you, not just hearing you, but listening to you. Mr. Hendrickson will make sure we make a report in regard to your Roy Street issue that you have. We do get many complaints in regard to traffic, speeders, and there is a long list. We will add that to the list, and we will issue that over to Sergeant Meyer, the Traffic Division. I myself am not overly happy and thrilled to hear about our friends at Trinity Farms. It's people that I've known for years. And hopefully that issue does get corrected and get corrected soon. That I'm not overly thrilled about. So once again, this is an issue. If the refund is there, and this is from April 28th, based on what I heard from Ms. Dugas. And I'm not really overly thrilled and happy to hear about the issues that I'm hearing in regard to commercial and in regard to farm. So hopefully all of this gets corrected. The other thing I'm just going to mention about the issue, and I'll talk a little more about that in regard to the parking over on Francis and those areas over there. It's very difficult to control other people and what they do, but I do understand everybody's feelings in regard to that, and I am listening to you. I have to go on a positive note now. I did receive a phone call from our congressman today, Joe Courtney, and he was happy to explain that we had put in for a community grant fund, and this has to do with the transportation, housing, urban development. Through the federal government, the town of Enfield will be receiving $1 million to go towards our train project, which I thought was very good news for us. And so I do want to just make that announcement to everybody. To get a personal phone call from him to share that news with us, I think is pretty important. This past week, we did meet with state economic development officials over at the Mass Mutual complex. They toured the facility. They talked with Mr. Borgia, the developer, and they talked about incentives that may be available through the state. So that was a nice meeting. And there were state people, state legislators that were also there, along with town administration. To the town manager, I would, and maybe in your report tonight, if you could maybe give us an update of the Prospect Street remediation program, see how that's going on. Just a quick update on that. I know that our train station design might be between 30 to 40% complete right now, and they are looking for a construction start date in March of 2025, a little longer than what we've expected. So all of that is coming into play. Also to the town manager, we had benches donated by Mr. Vassar, and I know that we're looking for a proper location for the placement of them. And Mr. Littlejohn donated these benches, and I think probably a good area would be on the Abbey Road section of town by the where the landfill is. It's the nice walkway that goes down all the way up to down Abbey over to JFK, pretty much over there. I think that would be a nice little area. So I'd like to see that get done ASAP or sometime within this month. I do want to also mention that our Building and Grounds Department did a real nice job of taking care of some graffiti that was planted along over at the Parkman School area. And they did a good job of cleaning up that area. I also had a couple of residents did come to me and wanted to maybe discuss, maybe with the schools, about a mural on, I think it's where the old tennis courts were, to put like a school logo of their panther, which would put a little character to that area over there. But that's something that was brought to me by some of their constituents that live over there. They want to talk about artwork design, and I think that would be something good. And then I have just two other things I am going to mention. I'm a little long-winded today because I haven't seen everybody here in a while. And Mr. Robert, didn't mean to get loud with you, but it's 5 minutes, 3 minutes at the end. Okay? Okay. So I'd like an update on Powder Hollow, see how the progress is going with that, and I want to actually know when a actual start date is going to be, because we have the schools and other teams anxious for that project to get going. And my last little comment is that we do have an area of town over on Elon that when it rains heavily, that street gets flooded with all the runoff from the farm that is up there. And, you know, the residents' yards get flooded out, and I'm concerned about, you know, the sewers and everything that's over there, and the chemicals, the fertilizer. You know, I don't know what chemicals are used over in the farms, but, you know, when it dries up, you could see where all of these fertilizer pesticides, you know, that are just implanted in people's yards now. I did go down after the storm and took a look at Elon. Geez, the road is a mess, you know, so that's something that has to be looked at. So, but other than that, just one other thing. To all the senior volunteers out there, for your volunteer tax credit program, if you have the hours, start logging them in, submit your paperwork into social services. And also, I did have a couple of people reach out to me this past week and the week before about renters, the renters don't, aren't included in this, but there is a renters rebate program that they can look into if they're qualified for at social services. So that's it for me, and sorry for being long-winded, but Deputy Mayor Sakala.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. George is my neighbor, and I want to do everything I can to keep him and his wife as neighbors because they're wonderful, and it's really hard to get good neighbors. I've lived in my house for 47 years, and when we bought the house, My husband and I were the young people on the street, and we are now the old people on the street. So the neighborhood has ebbed and flowed, and we have a lot of new young people moving in, and that makes me happy. But we do have a traffic problem, and I have called before to have someone at the stop sign even, because that four-way is very dangerous. So I will work with our mayor on that, and I want to see something done. To the town manager, thank you. We've been going back and forth. I know John's on vacation. I have the resolutions that I have copies of that I can give you, and you have the link because we've been using the same link. I think together we can come to where this is so that the residents know exactly where that money went from these resolutions. And Attorney Talberg is going to try to find out whether we do have to have one to reverse it. So I appreciate you working on it. I appreciate John working on it. But he does deserve vacation, so let him enjoy it this week. I did ask for a few legal opinions, and again, thank you, Attorney Talbert, you got them back to me. There was just one thing. So you assumed that when I asked for a legal opinion on when a counselor makes a motion on the floor and it's not followed through, it was from the 26th. It was not. It was on the last council meeting on June 19th. Councilor Hopkins had made a motion to set a date for a special meeting for the BAA, and I seconded it. It was never acted upon. So that's really where my question came from, not on the 26th. So as far as I'm concerned, that is still open. That motion is still open. It was never closed, and we never acted upon it. So I would like a legal opinion on what is, under what circumstances does a motion not get closed? And I mean, you can go back and look at it.
Can I deal with that either?
Yep, absolutely.
Can we contemplate that? We
Yep.
usually don't give them on the fly.
Nope, absolutely, absolutely. But again, I got this late and I was on my way here, so I didn't think you were going to have time either. So the other question that I had for you, or legal opinion, was the difference between a workshop and a special meeting. And the reason why I felt confused about it was because I was remote for that meeting, I got two agendas. And one agenda said regular meeting, council chambers, 6 o'clock. And then the next one came in with workshop. And that was the reason why I remoted in late that night to the meeting. I remoted in on my link, and I was down in the Skidco room listening to Attorney Talberg and a resident chatting until Councilor Nelson texted me and said, "Where are you?" And I said, "I'm waiting for somebody to let me in." And then, because both my links said special meeting. So that's where my confusion came in. That's my confusion. And the last thing, I did go to, as they said, the BAA presentation the other night. It was very informative. But I've also been getting a lot of questions from residents on the workshop meeting, the 26th. It was recorded by ETV. There's no link to it. So I would appreciate a link to that so that people can go on. And also, if there's a link for the 26th, if people can look at that one as well. I think residents have the right. ETV was there filming it. They were there filming it on the 26th. And I think a link to that meeting should be on our website so that people can listen and watch. And again, the 26th, I know ETV couldn't do it, but I know there was somebody there that did it, and they might want to share that with you. And I do think it's important. It was a very informative meeting. And I think, again, the residents have a right to listen to it that weren't able to make that meeting. And my only other last thing is I'd like to give a shout out last Thursday to the response that our Enfield PD did, taking the gentleman into custody that was here from Florida. I was actually heading out of town that day, and I saw the SWAT team coming down the highway, and I knew something bad had happened. But our Enfield Police Department did a great job in doing that and calling in a SWAT team. And again, that's what our chief always talks about, is how we help other towns and they help us when we need it. So that is it for today. Thank you.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Sakala.
Thanks. Not to duplicate or make this any longer, so I just want to thank the 4th of July Committee for putting on a wonderful Taste of Enfield again. It's an annual event. really, their committee is all volunteers, so a big thank you to the 4th of July committee, Buildings and Grounds, DPW, the police, town administration, all of the other volunteers, and the residents who come. The weather didn't necessarily cooperate as much as it normally does, but it was still a great event, and again, thank you to the 4th of July committee.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Hopkins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've had some emails and calls from residents about car taxes as well. There is currently an appeal form on the BAA section of the town website. The appeals will occur in September. I don't think those dates are set yet. If you want to get your form online, fill it out, and then kind of wait for those dates, please reach out to a counselor if you have trouble finding that form, or if you don't know where to look for those dates. But I think folks would be happy to assist people, because there's a lot of people in town who are concerned about that. I will speak a little bit more about the Jimmy's Pub and Francis Avenue situation. I do just want to say now that I don't think it's as simple as pub versus street. I think that's the wrong way to look at it. Every person and resident I've talked to on that street and the other ones around that, they want Jimmy's Pub to succeed. The question is, as a council, what role do we have in making sure that people aren't dealing with vomit and condoms and people having sex outside of the houses on a daily basis? That's really concerning. So I think that's our role, and I hope we can have a productive discussion later when we address this again. I do also want to second Councilor Nelson's legal request for an opinion here on the phrase mostly followed the law from our outside counsel that we hired, as well as conclusions from the outside counsel about Mr. DeLorge's case in particular. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Finger, and then Councilor Ludwig.
Thank you, Mayor. Couple of things. One, through the mayor to the town manager, on the intersection, the center island of Cranbrook and Palumba, and I'll send you the pictures. I took them tonight. There's a light pole leaning like this. It's got a big dent in it, and the cement foundation is coming up on one side. Like I said, I'll send you the pictures later on. All right, we need to get that looked at and repaired. To me, it's a safety issue. If the cement foundation wasn't moved, I would say, just look at the pole, but it's bad. Second thing is, I do want to apologize to the BAA for not making a meeting. As you know, like Mrs. Dubinowski said, is that my grandkids came up from North Carolina that day, and I couldn't get out of it. I haven't seen them in a while and had to be there, and I really wanted to be there. I did watch the link, and it was very informative. To Councilor Despard, if he doesn't mind, it'd be nice if we all had that link to your dates at Fermi. That way there, because this is the first I've heard of it. I don't go on your website, because I just don't Facebook. But it'd be nice if everybody knew about it, including the at-large councilors. So this way there we can attend too. So it'd be nice.
Just we have to be careful, right? I don't think we can have a majority of the town council meeting, right?
Right. So if the two of us show up, that's not a majority.
You would be more than welcome to show up.
Yeah, I just didn't know about it. I appreciate that.
Great.
Thank you, Matt. And as far as the Jimmy's Pub and the people of that street, I agree with Councilor Hopkins. It's not pub against street. It's basically you have to have small businesses there. I've never spoken up on this. This is my first time saying something about this whole thing. And I talked to, he said he was the person who runs your karaoke, guy with a beard. I can't remember his name. He said he does your DJing or something. I'm not sure. I don't remember his name. I'm sorry. In fact, I met him here at the Town Green. A suggestion he made really made sense to me was maybe you need to hire an Enfield Police Department officer on an overtime basis with a vehicle. And that way there, you don't have to go out there yourself and put yourself in any type of danger for anything that happens. And it'll also rectify quicker any instances happening on people's homes so they don't get the Ring camera going off. I think that's a very good compromise. Yes, there's going to be a few pennies out of your pocket, but it may take the pressure off of you and your business and help out the residents, which is, to me, a very important thing, like your small business. like I said, this is my first time thinking about it, and I don't want to talk about it later because you're going to have so many other people talking about it. I want to get it over now. Keep that in the back of your mind, or even perform it. Get a paid Enfield Police Department officer out there. That, I think, will help resolve, hopefully, the majority of the situations going on, because then they can make the arrest then and there. And not a security officer, the size of Councilor Despard is going to go out there and, stop them, but a real officer. I think that may be a good idea for you. And that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Councilor Ludwig.
Thank you. Again, to the mayor, to the town attorney, when any councilor asks for a legal opinion, it's served with all 11 councilors. Can we see the legal opinion that was given on the Conservation Commission? I haven't seen it. I mean, the same protocol should, I think, apply to the manager does all 11. If I ask you for a legal opinion, we share that with all councilors. So I'd appreciate if you share your legal opinion.
Yeah, I don't know which one you're talking about.
With the Conservation Commission, where folks couldn't vote, whatever that opinion may be.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. We'll follow up about
yeah,
it.
But that was, appointments for conservation. But again, I respect that you would share it with all 11 councilors. Again, I'm actually here to help you from the in our policies and procedures to Councilor Pisner's question. It's actually special meeting. It just takes 2 councilors to actually request a special meeting. It's actually in our procedures. It's on page 2. And it's how you, so basically they have a motion, they can call a special, any 2 councilors can call a special meeting. It's in our policies and procedures on page 2. So again, that's that. And then on the refunds, I know I sent a question to the mayor, to the town manager. Curious, do we have a policy on how, is there a certain timeline we have to do to actually refund the money? Is there, I don't know if we have our own cash procedures or not. I'd just be curious if we do, because I think most organizations do. Where if they owe a refund to a customer or a client, and again, I'm not looking to place blame on what's wrong, but I mean, when we owe someone money, no matter if you're in government or you're in business, you pay that money back as quick as possible. If it's deemed it's redeemable. So again, through what Councilor Nelson said earlier, everyone, I would like also to get a report on actually when those I know letters are going out, how many are going out, who's receiving them, so when they actually get paid, just so we can follow through a request when you get to your report. I appreciate it. I again appreciate the PAR. 2 quick questions out of the PAR. A few years ago, we budgeted to have a system for reporting for social services. Could we get some samples of what actually we're receiving from that? And I know it was mentioned in the PAR, but if we could actually get some samples of what the reporting is. And also, again, sorry to bring up a sore subject, on Abbey Road, I saw the kickoff. Again, I'm going to assume, and I know I should never do that the Abbey Road sidewalks are included.
You're doing it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, good. So I'm getting easier as we go along. And so this one, again, with everything going on in the world, and again, I respectfully, again, to the mayor, to the manager, again, I've asked for a presentation, I know, on human trafficking. If it's not the worst thing in the world, I'm not sure what else is. And I really want a presentation on what everyone, again, things people can see. So this is not just a law enforcement issue, the town of Enfield. It's every single person in the community should be aware, and signs that they can help. If you see, I think it's the most important issue. And I, again, respectfully ask that we have a presentation on maybe whoever, I know maybe the EMS director wasn't the right person, but I know we have some training, and I think it would be a fantastic presentation for the community to make people aware, even in Enfield, unfortunately, it can happen. And I think it's a huge issue. In my opinion, it's the most important issue. So again, I respectfully ask to the mayor, to the manager, that we have a presentation, maybe in the fall, give folks plenty of time, a special 6:30, 7, whatever meeting, because again, everyone needs to be aware of what's going on right in front of their eyes. So I appreciate that. And again, I want to thank you for your responses on on the questions on the tax abatement. Appreciate it, and I know we'll talk about that later. And merely my last statement is really more of a statement. As you know, again, as folks are talking about their tax bills, and again, as I stated earlier, right now, every single taxpayer, federal, state, and local, you're paying more in taxes than forever in our history. Ask yourself a simple question. Do you feel freer? I know what that answer is. So think about it. You're paying more money to take away your freedom. I'll leave you with that. Thank you.
Councilor Ungar.
Good evening. I wanted to congratulate Pam Townsend. She was awarded the Patriot of the Year, and we were able to celebrate that on the 4th of July with the celebration here on the Green. I serve as the liaison to that committee along with Councilor Mangini, and we were there the whole weekend in the heat every day. We had a great turnout except for one rain blast one night. We got kind of blown out, but it was really a great weekend. So I want to thank the committee for the great job that they did, and the fireworks were very good.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Santinella.
Okay, thank you. Through the mayor to the town manager, so I've been down to Eland Street. Is it possible to get someone to go down there and sweep the dirt that's sort of remaining in the road? It's a little bit unsightly and a bit of a problem for the neighbors. The other thing is just a reminder to people, our concerts are still going on the town green. If you came in, you saw that the band shell is being built, and it's been a huge success. If you haven't had a chance to get there, the Culture and Arts Commission has been working really hard to get the bands there. People seem to come out and enjoy it. It's a great opportunity to see your friends and neighbors and do something outdoors if it stops raining long enough for us to do that. Also, just a thought, Councilor Nelson, on the lights in Thompsonville. So I agree with you, they're unsightly, and we have money in the TIF that I think maybe we can just send a referral to the TIF committee and discuss using some of that money, because I think we haven't really identified a use for it. And there's a couple other things down there that I think maybe we can put together. So maybe we can double back on that and start putting some of that money to use. That's all I have. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Councilor Despard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So through the mayor to the town manager, Ellen, I was wondering if maybe once he gets back from vacation, we could have John Wilcox make like maybe some sort of visual or something so people can understand better what happened with the $1.4 million, why we conservatively budgeted so our education wasn't underfunded, because I don't want to continue to keep hearing about how taxpayers have been overtaxed, because I don't believe that's true. So I'm just thinking maybe we could have him do that. That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Town manager report. Finally.
Okay, I'm going to just do a couple highlights and then try to respond to as many of these questions as I can. So starting from the top, we've been spending a lot of time with the Enfield Square Mall. It came to a head last week. For those of you who've been following the issue, they have a hole as big as you could put a car through it in the area above where the indoor market was held, which was noticed during a training exercise by some public safety personnel and reported. The hole has allowed water intrusion, which has impacted the ability of the fire suppression and sprinkler system to be effective. So when there's a hole that size, the space that is used to trap the heat doesn't exist anymore, which renders the system inoperable. So one could assume that if a fire broke out in that section with a disabled alarm system, that fire smoke hazard could travel to other sections and there'd be no notice of it. The state law reads that when a fire suppression and sprinkler system is impinged upon, you have 4 hours to fix it. And if you don't, then there's all of these things that can happen, including closure. We've been waiting over 6 weeks for them to address it, and they haven't. So last week, we decided that we had to make them take it seriously based on the number of people who are in and out of there, the number of merchants, product, everything. And Target is involved in this because they share the canopy and they share an entrance. So there is no fire separation that completely closes Target off. So we also talked to Target corporate, we talked to corporate, the Cinemark people, and then on Friday we visited all of the tenants that were open in order to share with them the communication. It was not meant as a scare tactic. I don't think it was received as such, except by maybe one or two of the newer businesses who are obviously very upset. We have made contingency plans for them. We do not believe that at this point that it'll be closed. They, I think on Friday night when we had another call with them after they started receiving calls from their tenants, realized that we were very serious about the public safety risk. And to date, they have made, over the weekend, they have contracted and pulled permits for a variety of the work, which is supposed to start on Wednesday. That is reasonable to us, and we will continue to work with them in order to make sure that that work is completed. They are going to continue to do a manual fire watch during the time that all of this is happening, which means one of the mall employees is constantly in the area that has been compromised in order to ensure that nothing sparks or happens in that area that could jeopardize the rest of the mall area. They have also put forth the statement that they're looking to go into business with someone else in either a joint venture to redevelop the remaining empty sections of the mall. I've asked for proof of that so that we can have we can ascertain who this person might be and what that might look like. That's supposed to happen this week as well. So that's where we stand, and obviously we are hoping that all of this is a turnaround in terms of the attitude and the approach that they've taken to their maintenance and how they treat the town in terms of the relationship we have from a code enforcement perspective. The money from Congressman Courtney is actually going to be used for some of the street enhancements to enhance Thompsonville in the area of the TOD, so that is very welcome news. That was submitted by our Economic and Community Development team, so we will anxiously await the receipt of that so it can get folded into the overall plan. If you look in your PAR, I believe there's also reference to the prospect remediation, and that is actually coming to its final phase. I just looked up the letter. They have been accepted by the state of Connecticut into the remediation plan, which means that they're going to be held harmless for and have eligibility for certain liability protections. So when Kelly Fredette actually purchases the land, which they're going to use for part of their expansion, all of that brownfields consideration will have been handled through the state, which will be a bonus for them. Next, the Powder Hollow, I believe, is also reported in here that we are still in design phase, and we have the electrical room upgrade work has been awarded, and the professional design plans are almost ready to go. So I will have to check on what that start date is. I do know in terms of the Apricot data sampling, one of our goals, Steve and I have been talking about, is over the course of the next several months that certain departments present so that you have a fuller understanding about some of the pieces of what comprise their budget and how they produce services. And so I think because of the reorganization at social services and all that has come from that, that would probably be one of the first ones that we bring to you so that you can kind of see almost a full 2 years later what that has resulted in. So we will try to schedule that and get you the rest of the schedule. If there's any other suggestions about pieces of departments or things that you've seen in the PAR that you'd like to know more about, we can obviously schedule that appropriately as well. In terms of the human trafficking, Steve just mentioned to me that as Nantucket had a program, and we can pursue that, or we can go back to Chief Fox and see if he has somebody. The one that we had originally contracted with, which we ended up not using, wouldn't come for less than a 90-minute presentation, which didn't fit with the schedule here. So we will revisit that. The senior tax credit, we are having a meeting on Friday in order to begin the second round of public relations and promotions on that, because there's a lot of confusion about when they do things, how to do things. Nothing really happens until December. If in fact somebody has done their 50 hours already, obviously they can have that, but they really don't have to submit it until December, at which time they just get certified that it was a legitimate nonprofit, that the hours are there, that they are in fact 65 and own real property. That packet then will be sent to the assessor's office for the credit to be applied, which would then appear next July 1st. There is some concern about people who might be eligible for both, so we're going to try to roll some additional media out on that. So that meeting's happening on Friday. Let's see. I think Roy Street is already on the list at the police department, but I will check on that. And let's see. I think the only other thing that I will comment on in terms of some of these tax assessor issues is I did look up the reports when I think it was Mr. Kogut noticed during his April hearing about the 100% versus 70% and brought it to their attention. As was stated earlier, the corrections were made prior to the 2022 billings being sent. Everybody should always check their forms, but in terms of the time frame, it's kind of one of those things where the office waits for the reports from the BAA, which then come back to the office. They also have to then balance putting that together. They're also doing the state report that's due. They have the tax file to prepare. So I believe that it's about a 6 to 8 week period before those refunds are going to be able to be issued. So we were looking at the August 21st agenda because they do actually come to you per state law. And they're now collecting taxes, obviously, this month, so there's a lot going on. I am not sure of how many files there were. The number 49 was floated at the meeting. There is one entity in town that has already submitted, so I know that the information is out there. The letter with the form attached to it was mailed, I think, at the end of last week, but I can get you who it was mailed to when we're back into the office. I would also note, too, for the Smith Farms, they did not appeal their 21 assessment, and so there's really not much that can be done in terms of that, in terms of the appeal. And a taxpayer, by state law, has to request the refund. So that's why we're sending out the forms to the people who were the 2021-22 100% versus 70%. We are sending them those forms. But I'm going to have to revisit the I did send an email, I think, to leadership about the Smith Trinity Farms issues, and I will revisit that and send it to the whole council. This goes back a while. There was grand list issues about the barns going back to, I think it was discovered in 2014. So there's a lot of history here that I think all of you should be aware of. So I'm going to put that in a memo format and send it out to you. But I think at this point, if I looked at the file correctly that I was able to access on my phone, I just don't think that we can do that unless you do some type of resolution. They didn't appeal, so there's nothing to refund, even though the building was placed on 2 properties. So there is no statute of limitations, I would like to say that, but because they never appealed the value, I'm not sure what we can do. I would refer that to the town attorney's office, because if you would like to make Smith Trinity Farm whole, I'm sure there's a way for you to do so. You would just have to identify a revenue source from which to pull that. And I don't, without having the field card, I don't know what the difference is and what that tax is owed. So we're going to have to get back to you with more information on that. I just don't have it with me.
Okay, thank you.
I have a couple questions regarding the park.
Yeah, Councilor Ungar.
Through the mayor to the town manager, I was reading in the PAR with regard to the state legislative delegation on June 13th. You met with Chief Fox and other town representatives to discuss the bonding commission for the addition to the town's public safety complex. Was anyone from the Public Safety Committee included in that?
No, it was a leadership meeting, and it was actually a legislative agenda, of which the public safety complex and the bonding situation was one of several items.
It would be nice to be notified that at least it was happening, that we know what's going on. Also, is it possible at our next public safety meeting if we could have some type of update from the Juvenile Review Board? I've heard there's some concerns with it, and if we could get an update on what's going on and how it's doing.
Sure. I mean, I'm not sure what the concerns are. It's been revamped, and it seems to be operating better than it's ever been, other than the fact that it's very full, which is
Okay, just we've
Not
never
bad.
had a report or someone come and let us know how things are going, so that would be appreciated.
Okay, thank you. Are there any reports? Excuse me, Councilor Santinella?
The town attorney didn't
Hold
address
on.
the papers.
Hold on.
Yeah, I'm going to have to research that, Councilor Nelson. I'm sorry. I don't have an answer off the top of my head about the littering, which I think it's probably a littering issue, but let me take a look at that. And I have notes on other things that councilors raised that I'll follow up separately if I may. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, no. Apology accepted. Councilor Santinella.
Through the mayor to the town manager, I'm going to stick my neck out and try to be helpful. So General Government and Finance is meeting Thursday. Is it possible to refer the Trinity Farm issue to that committee? We can discuss where it could come from on Thursday and make a recommendation back to the council for our next meeting, whatever the options are available. But I think that's the right committee to refer.
I think
But
it would be because it's a financial.
So I think we can probably handle that pretty quickly in the committee and get back and get these people made whole. I think in preparation for that meeting, I think we just need to really understand where the overtaxation happened. I'm not doubting the issue. I think I don't have the background. So if we could just have what happened laid out for us, I think we can resolve this pretty quickly for them. Thanks.
Sorry,
thank
just
you.
Yeah, real quick on that. For that same meeting, if we have cash procedures, can we actually see what the policy is? And if we don't have a policy, then that's something I think we should talk about, because we should have, every organization should have cash procedures.
As it relates to refunds?
Refund anything, yeah, I mean, I think that's another thing that'll help. I mean, we don't, and I always hate when we say we refer to state law. We should have our own cash procedure, as any organization would. And if we don't, that's fine. Maybe that's something we can address. So thank you.
You're welcome. Deputy Mayor Sakala.
Thanks. Just because I'm the chair of that committee, I don't have a problem if we do the Trinity Farms thing, as long as if the agenda has to be posted by Wednesday. So if you have enough time to get the background prepared for all of us, I think that would be great, and we can put it on the agenda. I don't know if we need literature or anything prior to that and adding that to the agenda either. So just if you want to get me your agenda items, and we can try to put them on the agenda. Works for me.
I do have some of the background done because this happened before Todd was an employee here, so he had to go back into the files and pull all of that so that we had the sequence of events. I'm going to ask him to augment that and add on, the last few months, because this one that I received is dated May 11th. So we'll update it, and that will be the basis of what General Government and Finance reviews.
Perfect. I mean, it makes sense, just as long as I know we probably want it prior to the meeting so we can look at it. So as long as that can all be done before the agenda has to be posted.
I mean, I'm more than happy to just, if it can't arrive till then, we'll just come a little early or stay late, because I just think that's me.
You should. I'm
right?
baking.
Yep. The deputy mayor bakes for those meetings. So anyways, if you can't have it by then, that's fine. We'll just have to dig in and work through it in the meeting. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else with any comments before we move forward? Okay, thank you very much. Next, is there any reports of special committees, even though we just got a little update of Finance Committee and General Governments? Okay, see none. Number 12, unfinished business. There are none. 13, moving on to new business under the consent agenda. We have 3 items. One is the Family Resource Center grant. The other one is the bid waiver for the three-way communication benefits to the schools, and then to appropriate funds in the budget deliberations recommended by General Government and Finance. Does anyone want to remove any of these items? If not, all in favor, raise your hand. Okay.
I was just curious what the grant is for. I'm in favor of it, but what the grant is, a little description of the grant for.
The grant for item 1. Okay.
I'm for it, but I don't know if there's a little more detail. I wasn't sure if it's actually to run the program itself or it's actually to supplement some other program.
It's for the actual Family Resource Program.
Yeah, it's just, yeah.
I
just had a question. On the back page, it's all X'd out on the amounts. Is that done on purpose?
Where?
On my back page, it doesn't show amounts. It's all
Oh,
X'd
no,
out.
I think that there's just a
Okay.
typo. It's 112,629.
Normally,
Yeah,
it
I
would
see
be here,
that.
and so that I just was
Yep.
questioning it. That's all.
Yep.
Okay.
So I think that's just
I'm
a
referring
misprint.
all those questions
Yeah.
to Sheila.
Okay? All right, very good. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay, unanimous, 11-0. Okay, moving on to appointments, town council appointed. There are several appointments tonight, so in order to get this going, expediting this, we'll do a voice show of hands. And if anyone would like to ask for a roll call, just indicate if you'd like one. But I think for all intents and purposes, just moving onward here, we have quite a few. So the first one is the Blight Review Committee. Once again, this is residence vacancy. The recommendation is for Jennifer Bryant until 3/31/2027. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Councilor Nelson is second by Deputy Mayor Sakala. Is there any discussion on this? All in favor? Yay? Okay. Any opposition? 11-0 in favor of Jennifer. The second one is the term of office of Ann Collins, expired 6/30/2023. Reappointment would be until 6/30/2027. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Councilor Nelson, and a second by Councilor Ungary. Any discussion on this? All in favor, say yay. Yay. It's unanimous, 11-0. Next will be 3, the term of office of Donna Corbin Sabinski, expired 6/30/2023. Reappointment would be until 6/30/2027. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Councilor Nelson, and a second
Second.
by Councilor Hopkins. Is there any discussion? All in favor? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in favor and opposed.
No, we have 6 in favor.
There were
5,
6 in
6.
favor.
Oh, did you have your hand? Okay, your hand was up, 6. And then, okay, 6 in favor and then opposed. There are 5, 6-5. So, yes, the vote was 6-5 in favor of Donna Corbis Sobinski. Item 4, Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Agency, the term of office of Phil Kober, expired 6/30/23. Reappointment would be until 6/30/2027.
So
Is there a
moved.
motion? Councilor Nelson, and a
Second.
second by Councilor Santinella. Any discussion? All in favor? Yay.
Yay.
Okay, it's 11-0 in favor. Moving onward to number 5, Inland Wetlands. A vacancy exists for an alternate member. Replacement would be Chris Renault until 6/30/2025. Is there a motion? Motion. Councilor Mangini, and second by Deputy Mayor Sakala. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, looks like we have 7 in favor and 8 in favor, and opposed would be 2 abstention, 1 abstention, so 8-1 in favor of Chris. And the next one, a vacancy exists for, once again, the Loan Review Committee for a resident. Recommendation is, and I apologize if I mispronounce your name, Darisol Stovall, until 12/31/23. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Councilor Nelson is second by Councilor Mangini. Any discussion? All in favor? Hand vote 11-0 in favor. Next, North Central Health District Board of Directors, Enfield representative, the term of office of Michael Delavolpe, expired 6/30/23. Reappointment would be 6/30/26. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Councilor Nelson, and a second by Councilor Ungary. Any discussion? All in favor? Looks like 11 in favor, 11-0. Next, the Patriot Award Committee, the term of James Maloney, expired 7/31/2023. Reappointment would be until 7/31/2025. Is there a motion? Counselor Nelson, and a second by Counselor Mangini. Discussion, all in favor? 11-0 in favor. Okay. Next, town manager appointed. This next one, there are 3 categories for these appointments. The first 2 names are landlords, the next 3 are residents, and the final 2 are renters. There are 2 Democrats, 3 Republicans, and an unaffiliated voter, and 1 who is registered as an independent. So it's a good mix, and, you know, there were 7 openings, 7 people applied, and wouldn't you know, it fit all the criteria. And that was fantastic. So, once again, do I have a motion to accept?
So moved, but I have a question.
I have
on
a
the
question
motion.
too, sorry.
Okay. Let's go through these, then I'll go back to a discussion. Okay, Counselor Nelson?
Okay,
and a
my
sec-
own-
Okay, just want to get a
sorry.
second.
Second.
Counselor Ludwig, and now discussion.
Okay, my only concern is, when this goes into the resolution at the end, if we could just put what position they're filling, like Kelly Hemler is applied for tenant. So the resolution, I want it to stay tenant, so that way when her term expires, we know that's the role she played, and it has to be replaced with a tenant. That's all.
Okay, do I have a question? The way that it's written, is it written as residents and then, or landlords, or it's not? I thought it came out in the way that it was written, that I thought it was the landlords, then the residents, and then the renters. I could be wrong, but I thought it was.
But we know this, but the next councils who reappoint this, it's so much easier if next to each name, it says landlord or tenant or resident, and that way it's
All right,
that simple.
so when we get to that, we'll just make a simple amendment. I don't have an issue with that.
Well, it would have to be here, right?
Right, that's the amendment I'm.
So the amendment, he's,
Okay,
yeah.
all right, so,
Yeah. I agree.
all right, so okay, so first of all, Paul J., I believe, is a landlord. So town council hereby appoints Paul Januszewski, then after that, you would write
Parentheses,
landlord.
landlord, yep.
Okay, and then for a term expiring 6/30/24, and then William Downs, landlord, for a term expiring 6/30/25. Jennifer Broyette, once again, she is, I believe, a
resident, I think.
Just resident.
Resident, okay?
Yep.
For the term expiring, okay, so that's resident there. Term expiring 6/30/24. Ian Graves, resident, for a term expiring 6/30/25. Linda DeGray, resident.
Yep.
All right. For a term expiring 6/30/24. Patrick McNeely.
Tenant.
Tenant. For a term expiring 6/30/24. And Kelly Hemler.
Tenant.
Tenant. For a term expiring 6/30/2025.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now we have, do I have a second on that?
Second.
Second by Counselor Ludwig. We all good? Any discussion on that?
Yeah, I'll ask my question on the amendment, then I'm done. Real
Okay.
quick. So again, I think this is exactly what fair rent's supposed to be. So I appreciate it, and that's why those little things that we had to talk about are so important. Equal representation is equal representation. So thank you. I support the amendment. Thank you.
Okay, so we have to now vote on the amendment. So all in favor of the amendment? It's unanimous, 11-0 on the amendment. And now we vote on it, once again, as the appointment. Okay, all in favor? 11-0 in favor. All right, thanks. All right, so we did that, we did this. Okay, moving onward to D, discussion resolution. The resolution to approve 2 new job descriptions and approve the hourly part-time rate for the IT contract specialist position. This proposed reorganization was discussed during our budget presentation, and the realignment will save us approximately $40,000. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Councilor Nelson is second by Councilor Despard. Any discussion on this? Yeah.
So I just have a question on this. Are these 2 positions already there, or this 1.5 position? Is somebody already seated in these positions? Because it says new, I'm sorry.
I'll come up.
Hi, how are you?
Hi,
Good
Paul.
evening.
Welcome.
Thank you. These are new positions. One's going to be a part-time. We have a full-time employee who's retiring, the technology project coordinator. That was a full-time position with benefits and so on. That person is retiring. We decided to, instead of hiring another technical project coordinator, was to enhance the role of our service desk coordinator to be a service desk manager and add the responsibilities of project management and change management. She's the current service desk manager already has the tasks of doing incident and problem management. So it's a nice continuum of the entire life cycle for technologies, from project to termination. The areas that we still need some work to be done on is the part-time contract specialists. We have over 200 IT contracts that we want to put into this same system, and it will feed the information for all of the other sectors of our IT management solution. So probably within a year, we'll have all those contracts in place. We'll get renewal notices. It's for licensing, it's for hardware, it's for services, and so that we can stay on top of it.
But do we have to hire 2 new people? You said one
No.
person retired.
One's staying on as our part-time person to finish up.
Is she going to be local, or is that?
She'll be doing it remotely.
It'll be a remote position?
Yep.
And how many hours?
20 a week.
So no benefits or anything?
No
but it's-
benefits.
It's going to be remote?
Correct.
Okay.
And then the service desk manager is our existing service desk coordinator. So it would be a promotion for that person taking on the additional responsibilities of project and change management.
Do we have other remote positions?
We have remote capabilities. We don't have remote positions.
Okay. I just kind of like somebody who's in the building. That's just my own opinion. I think it's great, but
A lot of these services, because all our contracts are online, and so they come in from our vendors and our service providers, and they'll be added to our existing system, which is also cloud-based, so it doesn't require the person to be on-site to manage that. There's other aspects.
so it's a different position. She's going to.
Complete,
Okay.
yes.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay.
Councilor Ludwig.
Hey, Paul, 2 quick questions. So when we went over this in the budget, we had, could you, again, can you send us what was proposed in the budget, just so we can see your staff?
Sure.
Now, what it looks like? Because again, I want to start doing it now, so I know when we get to next year, if I'm still here, I understand the change that was presented in April so it's a change in number in your staff. Could you just show what you put in the budget versus where you are now?
Correct.
Number of them, what the positions are, okay, perfect. Question, could you explain to me, you mentioned the 200 contacts or contracts?
Contracts.
So exactly what does that mean?
So anything that has a license revolving around it for public safety, for municipality, for our education, licenses, hardware,
So once this
services.
is put it into
Our contract management system.
Right.
It'll have all our terms and specifications for those, so for renewals, so that it'll come up and it'll give us a 90-day notice before the term date.
Got it, right.
So that we can decide, is this something we want to continue with, or is this something?
They're not evergreen, so you actually do each contract, so they're not evergreen. So meaning each 200 contract, you decide whenever the contract's up. whether you-
Depending, we have, most we have is a 5-year, so we have,
Got it,
based upon savings.
Got it. All right. Thank you. I appreciate the explanation. Sure. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilor Finger.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, Paul.
Hey, how's it going?
If anybody knows, I'm probably one of your biggest fans in your department.
Much
They're awesome
appreciated.
people. Yeah, they're awesome people there, and And I got some phone calls back from my email, and I want to thank them for doing that. That was very nice of them. So the question I have is obviously, to my knowledge, we've never done somebody remote out of town not to show up to get paid.
Well, we have managed services, so we have people that are part of another company that they remote in, they take care of our servers, make sure patches are applied.
Yeah.
So it would be along the same lines.
Yeah, I was just talking about just like
As an employee.
Yeah, as an employee.
Yep.
And I kind of agree with Councilor Pisner. Somebody should be in the building. I have to show up every day. And both these positions are getting $50 an hour.
No, the $50, that's for the part-time position.
It's the service desk manager and part-time IT.
Yeah, I'll be reading that in the resolution.
Okay, thank you,
Councilor
Mayor.
Finger.
So, and the union agrees for this to happen this way. I'm in favor of it, but I just hope it doesn't open up a can of worms for other locations and other people to start thinking that, hey, I can work from Bahamas and still remote in. As an ex-president of the union for over 20 years, that scares me. Setting precedents of something like this. That's all I wanted to say. But I will be voting yes for this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Resolve that in accordance with Chapter 7, Section 2 of the Town Charter, the Enfield Town Council does hereby adopt the job descriptions for the following positions. One, the service desk manager, which is already budgeted, and the IT contract specialist part-time, which the wage would be $50 per hour. Date prepared 7/3/2023, prepared by Stephen Belinda, Esquire, Assistant Town Manager.
So moved.
Councilor Nelson, and second by Deputy Mayor Sakala. I think we've had our discussions. Roll call, Sheila.
Councilor Ludwig.
4.
Councilor Mangini.
4.
Councilor Nelson.
4.
Councilor Pisner.
Against.
Councilor Santinella.
4.
Councilor Ungary.
4.
Deputy Mayor Sakala.
4.
Mayor Crisati.
4.
Councilor Despard.
4.
Councilor Finger.
4.
And Councilor Hopkins.
4.
10 in favor, 1 against.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. Greatly appreciate it. Item E, discussion resolution, the PA adoption of the open space assessment ordinance. Now therefore be resolved that the town council approve the creation of the PA 490 open space ordinance, date prepared 7/13/2023, prepared by the town manager's office. Deputy Mayor Sakala, and second by Councilor Nelson. Any discussion? There's a good explanation. I think we've discussed this quite a bit. Any discussion on the floor? We're going to go with Councilor Ludwig, and then we'll go to Councilor Nelson.
I'll be quick. So, again, this is not perfect, but I think we need to pass it. And at some point, I'd like to revisit the, again, exceptions process, which I would like to see go through the Conservation Commission, which, again, I'm willing, again, we need to get this done to help folks for September. But I just want to put, again, on a record that I think it also needs to be amended at some point. Because, again, there's going to be exceptions, and we need to have a process, and in my opinion, it should go through the Conservation Commission. And I don't know if it would, through the mayor or the town manager, if it would apply here, but I was actually doing some research, and there are grants, I think, and maybe I'm using the wrong term, so how about money, where you can give more of a tax break, a municipality can, for actually farmers who produce food. I would like to, at some point, if we can, maybe, if it's a separate, but I would think it's important to understand how we have to control or have a viable local food supply with everything going on in the world. And I can look through it, I can send you some of the statutes, but I think in my opinion, it'd be fantastic for Enfield. Local farming, it goes to our supermarkets, it's cheaper, and they should, in my opinion, because you're producing food that people eat, that you should get there's things out there. So again, for future discussion, and I actually think it's very important that we start, this is, again, one in my opinion, the most important thing we're doing. And I want to thank the Conservation Commission for their patience, and I will support this. But again, we will make amendments, I think, in the future. Thank you.
Councilor Nelson.
Through the mayor to the town manager, is the value removed still, like we discussed in leadership? So it's not 25 or 50? There's no
No.
value in it.
Unless somebody wanted to make an amendment, we're leaving it as is because of all the different opinions that were reflected.
You guys are good with that? Mike?
This is
All
something
right.
we can go back.
All right, so, yes.
I wanna pass it, so-
I agree with Councilman Ludwig. I think we need to revisit this, but yes, I agree, we need to pass it, so.
Yeah. We will definitely revisit this, but at this point in time, I think we should move forward with it, and we will discuss those percentages as time goes on.
Thank
Okay,
you.
very good. All right, Sheila, roll call.
Counselor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Nelson.
4.
Counselor Pisner. 4. Counselor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Ungary. 4. Deputy Mayor Sakala. 4. Mayor Crisati.
4.
Counselor Despard.
4.
Counselor Finger.
4.
Counselor Hopkins.
4.
11 in favor, none against.
Item F, resolution referring the Higgins Park complete site plan, parking lot, lighting and fitness stations to the Planning and Zoning Commission per Connecticut General Statute S-84. Now therefore be resolved that the Enfield Town Council refer to the proposed development of land located at 820 Enfield Street, Higgins Park, to the Planning and Zoning Commission for a CGS Section 8-24 review. Date prepared 7/13/2023, prepared by, respectfully submitted by Lori Witten, Director of Planning.
Second.
Deputy Mayor, Councilor Mangini, and a second by Councilor Santinella. Any discussion on this, Councilor Ludwig?
I'll be quick. And again, I want to thank, again, this for me is important that I actually see something before I make a referral. So I appreciate the fact that, again, you and DPW provided, at least so I can say, okay, what am I referring? And so it allows me, I'm sorry, I know I've been voting no against these, but I can't refer something I've never seen. So it's just me, maybe call me a nut job, but I'm just saying, here, I appreciate you getting the information, and I will support this, so thank you. Again, it allows me to make a decision, so appreciate it.
This one and American Legion are hot off the presses. Unfortunately, the Legion did not make the cutoff for this month's land use, but in case they have a special meeting, it would still be important for you to act tonight so that they could get in the queue for activity, because the American Legion would really like to get that work started in the fall before the winter break.
Okay, thank you. Roll call, Councilor Santinella.
Yeah. So we also had approved the bathroom facilities on the back of the Coldwell Banker. It's not here. Does it need to be on here for the referral? No.
That will come back to you once the purchase of that building is
Got it.
finalized.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Sheila, roll call.
Counselor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Nelson.
4.
Counselor Pisner. 4. Counselor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Deputy Mayor Sakala.
4.
Mayor Crisati.
4.
Counselor Despard.
4.
Counselor Finger.
4.
And Counselor Hopkins.
4.
11 in favor, none against.
Okay, item G, the resolution referring the town-owned parcel American Legion parking area to the Planning and Zoning per Connecticut General Statute 8-24 and to the town attorney for lease revisions. The American Legion wants to add parking to the back portion of their parking area, and we, as the owners of this parcel, need to refer it to the Planning and Zoning. And once again, the Legion would like to suggest revisions to the lease, which would describe the maintenance requirements, which would be their responsibility within this also. So now therefore be resolved that the Enfield Town Council refer the proposed leasing of the land at 566 Enfield Street to the Planning and Zoning Commission and refer the lease to the Town Attorney's Office. Date prepared 7/14/2023, prepared by Lori Witten, Director of Planning.
So moved.
Councilor Nelson, and second by Councilor Mangini. Question, we're going to go with Councilor Mangini, and then we'll go to Councilor Nelson.
Through our mayor to our town manager, Ellen, are the lights that Mr. Gorman has been working with you on part of this, or is that separate? The lighting for the parking?
I don't remember if that's included. I'll have to get back to you as to whether that's on the site plan or not.
Because at one point, I think he was looking at the ARPA funds, and, oh, yes. Jim, you would know.
Yes, I can answer that for you. If you look at our parking that we have right now, the light pole, the lights that are on it, we've already talked to Eversource. They're going to do the same thing to the other light pole, put it on the new parking lot with the equivalent of 2 1,000-watt each bulbs. That'll brighten that place right up. So it's not really part of the project. The pole's already there. Eversource owns the pole. We pay the bill on the lighting.
So is that going to address the concern of the Legion?
It should,
Okay.
because now we don't have to put in light poles. We already have it
Yeah,
there.
okay.
Already physically there.
I thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Any other questions? Yep, Counselor Nelson.
So this is the John Macholik post, correct?
Yes.
And if our residents look at our ambulances, they have John Macholik post on every
No.
one of them.
This one on Enfield Street.
Right.
They're two different posts.
This is
Post 80.
post 80.
The other
McGill,
one
this
is
McGill.
54.
Yeah, okay, so this is post
It's not.
80 over on
It's not
Enfield
Macholik.
Street.
That's
Yeah.
right. By Dunkin' Donuts. Yeah.
Anyways, they are huge contributors to our community, all of them, and I support anything they want to do, and, you know, I wish them the best.
Absolutely. Counselor Finger.
Thank you. When you said they were taking over the maintenance through the mayor to the town manager, is it like B&G, they plow the driveway going down? So when they put this park on, and I mean, the mowing will be gone, so they're not, is B&G going to be responsible for the parking lot too?
Well, I believe that they want to be responsible for their maintenance at that point. I believe. I've just,
For the parking lot.
For the parking
gravel
lot.
Parking lot.
Just, yeah, but the B&G still has the road going down to the pump
Because
station.
of the pump station.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, great, thanks. I knew I threw you off there a little, so, yeah, okay, all right. All right, Sheila, roll call?
Counselor Ludwig?
4.
Counselor Mangini?
4.
Counselor Nelson?
4.
Counselor Pisner? 4. Counselor Santinella?
4.
Counselor Ungary?
4.
Deputy Mayor Sakala?
4.
Mayor Crisati?
4.
Counselor Despard?
4.
Counselor Finger?
4.
And Counselor Hopkin?
4.
11 in favor, none against.
Okay, next, item H, this is discussion resolution. The resolution to accept open space pursuant to the 2023 re-subdivision of the property known as 161 Post Office Road. Once again, this is a new proposal showing the new open space that is being offered for open space here in town. The resolution reads, now therefore be resolved that the Enfield Town Council does hereby accept the warranty deed for the open space as proposed by the re-subdivision approved as PH number 3067 in June of 2023 in accordance with the above recommendation. Date prepared 7/13/2023, prepared by Lori Witten, Director of Planning.
So moved.
Counselor Nelson, and a second by Counselor Mangini. Any discussion on this, Counselor Nelson?
So when this came before us before, I had a problem with it because I just didn't feel that Enfield should be accepting unusable land and escarpments and stuff like that. But the Weiners came forward with this new plan, which we can use part of this land in conjunction with JFK, so it is a benefit for the entire community. So I will support this, and I want to thank them for coming forward again, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Counselor Ludwig?
Sorry, just for my own edification, what is a conservation restriction? Curious? I don't know if through the mayor to the town manager or town attorney?
In general, it's where land is designated that it can't be built on it. That's my understanding. And I think that's the accepted definition. Yeah.
Okay. And so just reading it, it says the P&Z would allow that to happen there if we didn't take this land? Am I reading that correctly? And so is there a purchase price, or we're just accepting the land?
We're accepting that 1.43 into open space.
Okay. So it'll be within our open space allotment? Okay, okay. And so once it's in there, just curious, so if the schools want to use the property, right, once we designate open space, how does it, so actually, what can they apply to use that property for? Right, there's rules to it now, right, since if we're going to accept it as open space?
Public access for parks, schools, stuff like that. And because there could be a fee in lieu, they could pay instead of donating.
Right. Just curious, just for future maybe discussion, just make sure that, again, if we're accepting as open space, it stays as open space. Yep, thank you.
Okay, Sheila, roll call.
Counselor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Nelson.
4.
Counselor Pisner. 4. Counselor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Deputy Mayor Sakala.
4.
Mayor Crisati.
4.
Counselor Despard.
4.
Counselor Finger.
4.
Counselor Hopkins.
4.
11 in favor, none against.
Item I, once again, discussion resolution, the resolution concerning the temporary residential permit parking program on Francis Street, Highland Park, Pequot, and Nonotuck. The parking, as what we have it now, expires July 28th. Okay? And once again, there appears like people on the council who are in favor of, or in favor of continuing it or setting parking restrictions. So at this time, I would ask for a motion that we can open up this discussion to see where we're going to go with this.
So move.
Okay? So I will read the resolution, and then we're going to go into open up the discussion. All right? So be it resolved that the Town Council renews the temporary residential parking permit program, date prepared 7/13/2023, prepared by Ellen Zapusasu, our Town Manager. It's Councilor Mangini, and a second by Deputy Mayor Sakala. Now we will open up for discussion.
Point of order? I'm sorry, but that resolution was supposed to state that you have additional options.
No.
You didn't
Oh.
say that.
Oh. No, I'm sorry. We're going to continue this discussion. We will.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
I'm sorry.
that's okay. All right, so I did make a motion to open up for a discussion for possible solution here. Councilor Hopkins, you, and I need a second? And a second by Councilor Finger. So, well, let's open it up, okay? Councilor Nelson. Excuse me, Councilor. Yeah. Jeez, Councilor.
That's all right.
Nelson. Wow.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Hopkins, I apologize.
That's
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
I think folks on the council are probably tired of hearing this. I'm sure that residents are tired of dealing with this issue. I keep coming back to this and saying what's changed with this perhaps proposed temporary parking ordinance. I think we need to deal with the issue of enforcement. Why isn't that happening? I think at this point we can safely say folks who are using the pub, who might be not caring about littering, drinking too much, acting in bad faith, they know that this residential parking program exists. I think we need to step that up one step further, and I think that means a towing ordinance on the street. I think that's where we're at this point. I don't think these problems have gotten any better. I would be happy to review and receive any information from law enforcement data as to this issue that might be helpful. But from my perspective, seeing all these videos and photos, which I regularly get, I think that's where we're at here. So I would make that recommendation, that amendment here, to have a towing ordinance for just Francis Avenue. I think we heard from the Highland Park folks that they're not dealing with the same thing, but I would ask for a permanent resident-only parking on Francis and Highland with just towing on Francis. Thank you.
Councilor Santinella.
Yeah, through the mayor to the town manager, I don't know if you can answer this question. So was Jimmy's Pub promised in their zoning application that overflow parking would be able to go onto the streets. Is that the way that worked with planning and zoning?
I can't speak to the planning and zoning process.
Okay, because they've represented to us that part of their approval for their facility was that they obviously have limited parking and that it was understood that additional parking would be given to them on the street.
Okay. Mr. Bedard is here. He can probably speak to it.
He said that. Again, I haven't seen that from planning and zoning, so I'm just asking for clarification that that is true. If that is true, and I don't have any reason to not believe Mr. Bedard, he was given his approvals with that condition in place. And, this has been, I just think, obviously this has been going on long enough, and I honestly don't think whatever we do is going to solve this problem. I think we're going to be back visiting this issue over and over again. I think it's a private party matter that they have got to figure out to resolve on their own. I respect the differences of opinion. I don't want anybody throwing up on my front yard. I don't want people going to the bathroom in my bushes. I get that. But we have a business owner who was told that they would have access to those streets for their customers. And if that is the case, I don't see how any of these things are going to make this problem go away.
Okay, any other, Councilor Ludwig?
Through the mayor, town manager, is it possible to get a list? So for me, what actually has been tried? So as we hear some things have been done, and I don't know if the Bedard family say if they they've tried security, or just to understand exactly what has been tried and maybe it's failed. To then, again, for me, I have to admit, I get nervous when we start putting parking bans and we can't do this with streets and towing and everything else. And I understand, look, I completely understand both sides here, but for me, I got to understand exactly what has been tried, what hasn't been tried, because it's not a simple solution. Even I think this needs to be a both by the owners and then some of the other thing, again, if it's some of the things the towns are willing to do. But I agree, if we start doing residential parking, well, then we need to be prepared to be doing this all over town, and we need a policy. I mean, it's a policy that we have to make, and again, I understand the residents, they've been coming up here for over a year, but that's a discussion that has to affect, just like we're talking about with some of the speed bumps, for example. I'm in favor of those, but again, we need to have a policy before we put them on one street versus another. And it's not easy. So I would just like to kind of understand what, if folks are willing to, let us know what has been tried, what didn't work. So then we can maybe sit down and say, okay, is there things we can, like, for example, and I know, again, it's like sometimes when you're doing something and it hasn't been working, at some point you just stop and say, let's just rethink it. And I know this is probably, but again, I've seen what some other towns have done. I understand Enfield Street's a state road, but again, a lot of towns will restrict the lanes, like for Friday, Saturday night. So again, folks can, again, you have police there, whatever, we're willing to do that, where folks park across the street can walk across safely, and then it's a one-way traffic both way. I've seen other communities do things like that. I'm just saying, it feels like we need to think completely outside the box here, because I don't know if anything we come up with is going to work for anybody. So let's try to put a policy that we can work here, then can maybe work in other areas of town that may have similar situations. It may not be a bar or restaurant, but maybe it's something else, right? So I mean, that's, I guess, what I'm looking at, because again, we've heard, both, again, there's always truth in every side, but kind of, hey, what's really been tried, what didn't work, what did, if anything did work, maybe nothing did.
Well, I think that it would be safe to say that both sides have put forward a bunch of different ideas. Going back to the first meetings, there was open communication. There was supposed to be phone calls to the bars. If there were problems, the police were called. The police would respond. Tickets were issued. So there was that response piece. One of the things that I had held out the most hope for was to limit the amount of disruption to Francis Avenue during the late hours, was that there was an attempt for the employees to park in front of those most affected houses with the assumption that they're in early, they're out late, and that they would approach their cars with the appropriate level of, they're not beeping their, car openers, they're not loud, they understand why they're parked there. That worked, and then all of a sudden it wasn't working. The car hardware is really everybody's eyes on that prize, but there's a lot happening at that parcel. So the gentleman in question, I think, is interested, but there's not been a level of commitment. Mr. Bedard did attempt to get a private duty police officer for this weekend, and the overtime could not be filled. And I actually was at the police department on Saturday for that incident that occurred, and the people who were in line to fill it had been CREST activated. They'd worked third, they'd been held over, and they weren't interested. So when you can't get people to fill that overtime, then Mr. Bedard can't have somebody there to augment. He's been outside. There's been, I think the neighbors have been very communicative back. But at the end of the day, it's like, it's like the Three Little Bears. It's Goldilocks. It's too big. It's just we can't make any type of agreement as to what's going to work. And so that therein lies the policy issue with you, and it is difficult. We could tow. There is a opportunity for any vehicle found in violation to be towed, but also keep in mind that when you do that, you are tying up an officer at that point until a wrecker arrives and that call is completed. So from a calls for service standpoint, when you actually know how busy the Enfield Police Department is, you're tying up a resource there, and let's hope that there's not something else that happens. There's still the public safety issues of could it be parking on one side and not the other, and that would still effectuate great emergency response on that street, especially in the winter. There's a lot of options, but it was always came down to, well, we don't like that, or I don't think that's going to work. And consensus building, I think you could probably have brought in Henry Kissinger at some point, and I'm not sure he could have gotten it done either.
I want to say one.
Okay.
I just wanted to say one thing. We had one example of public urination. They were able to arrest that person, but the state prosecutor declined under prosecutorial discretion. They didn't even want to pursue it. So we could do everything we can to arrest people, but then it's not up to us if they want to pursue it.
Agree. When the court closed, I agree.
Yeah, Counselor Ungary, and then I want to make a comment after her. Go ahead.
This is really a challenging situation, and I really feel for both sides in this whole issue. My concern is about creating new policy, along with Councilor Ludwig. But from the surface, if you look at the situation, it comes across as reckless behavior versus sleep and children and a peaceful night. From the surface, that's what it appears. But it's bigger than that. He has a right to have his business here. He was allowed to have it here, parking on the street. So I think we need to really put our thinking caps on and come up with some real answers. We've been trying, but maybe not hard enough. I even thought of what if we had a walk bridge that went up and over the street like in Agawam for Six Flags. That might be the cheapest thing in the end. It's just to have that walk bridge and have parking across the street. Just a suggestion.
It's a very, very difficult situation that we're sitting up here trying to solve an issue of a business owner with the residents. And like I stated before, you can't control what somebody does when they leave an establishment. I don't think Mr. Bedard is encouraging his people that go and frequent his restaurant bar that, geez, you're going to go out and urinate, and you're going to go out and vomit, or you're going to go out and, have sex in the car, or any of that kind of activity. My concern is, if we go into the avenue of towing, or you go into the avenue of just resident-only parking, there's that possibility of you have maybe your kids are sleeping over. They're not residents. They may be visiting you, or you have cousins over, and there's a car there, and next thing you know, that vehicle could be getting towed, or get ticketed, or whatever. It's a very, very difficult situation. If we make an allowment for resident-only parking, this is going to open up. So you have the people who live down in the Scannick. They're going to be right in here the next day when they hear that, and they're going to want no resident parking down there. So these are all, it's very difficult. I thoroughly understand where you're coming from, but you're trying, they're trying. It's people's responsibility of their recklessness of doing it. I wish that, more people would get nabbed doing this, and there's no easy answer. He was allowed by planning and zoning to have overflow parking on the streets.
First time I heard it. Prove it, please. Show me the documentation. Show me the documentation.
Stop, shut it down, Bob.
Okay, that's enough. Okay, so Councilor Nelson, and then I'll bring it back to Councilor Hopkins.
I guess I'm taken back here. Councilman Santinella talks about, this is a private matter, but he wants plate readers hired in town because his neighbor has a Massachusetts plate on his car. So it's okay for him to use town money to go after his neighbor, but this is a private matter. These people are being denied peaceful enjoyment of their property, and all the attorneys sitting up here, they know what that is. They're being denied it at 2 o'clock in the morning, okay? And we're blaming the customers. The customers are being fed alcohol, and we know what alcohol does, especially me, okay? What alcohol does to people. And any single person sitting here, if that was happening in front of their house, they would be up in arms and it'd be changed immediately. And the Bednars have admitted if it was happening in front of their house, they'd be pissed. Now that it's expiring, this council wants to start discussing it in committee? What happened to the 3 months it's been in effect? We're just going to leave these people to hang out to dry? This ain't right. I agree with Councilman Hopkins 100%. Resident parking only, all others will be towed. And the reason people don't pay attention to it, what's there now, is because our parking fines are a joke. And they consider them a joke because he's got signs in his bar that says, I'll pay your fines. That's how much of a joke we are to them. And I'm tired. I'm tired of hearing this. So you want to debate it? Great, we'll debate it in committee. Let's pass it, and then we can talk about it for the next 3 years, but these people can finally get a good night's sleep on the weekend. That's where I stand. So if Councilman Hopkins made a motion, I will second it. If not, I make a motion right now, resident parking only, all others will be towed. Permanent.
Councilor Hopkins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will consider Councilor Nelson's thought here. But first, I want to say, just to respond to some of the questions, it's not about a total fix. There is no such thing. We have a responsibility to try to get the best result. And I think we've been watching this. Residents have been sending us what's happening. This temporary ban has not fixed this issue. What's the next level of inducement, enforcement, deterrence? I think the towing resolution is that. I am frustrated that we've had this temporary ban. We come back, we don't really have an answer. Well, folks who've been following this, I think, do have an answer. This is not about just some kind of general plan that then we'll have to apply to every street in Enfield. It depends on whether the problem is happening. Now, these folks have come out, they have documented that there are problems happening sometimes every weekend, and some pretty nasty stuff. If there's another street in town that's having these issues, folks will come out and we'll address that. Should we develop a more comprehensive policy? I think so, but these are the folks in front of us. These are the people dealing with the safety issues, quality of life issues, and just horrible behavior in front of us. I think we have to do something, and it's not just that we're not picking an option. This is something that has been thought out. Is it perfect? No, but we do have the option to act here, and I think we should do that. Will we have to sort it out on the back end? I think we should. I would ultimately second Councilor Nelson's motion to amend this resolution to ban have only residential parking on Francis and Highland Park and resident-only parking subject to towing on Francis. I think that's where we're at this point. It is well thought out. I know people have concerns. We can address those after the fact, but this is the next logical step.
So there is a motion on the floor, and that motion on the floor has been seconded by Councilor Nelson, and this is for resident parking only on Francis, correct? Only on Francis with towing.
Well, I think I should clarify. Councilor Nelson, were you saying resident-only parking on Francis and Highland Park with towing on Francis, just Francis?
Francis Avenue only.
Okay,
People came in, said they didn't want it on Highland Park, so Francis Avenue only.
Fair enough. I'll second that.
With towing.
Wait, just point of order. You already have a resolution, I believe, a motion and that a resolution, and then it was seconded, and that's what you're
Right.
debating.
My
so.
motion was Francis Avenue only.
They're amending it. So this would amend renews temporary residential, just say.
A second amendment on that motion, because Counselor Hopkins was for resident only on Francis and Highland with towing on Francis only. And I don't believe that's what Counselor Nelson just said.
He didn't do a motion, though. He didn't put a motion up.
I did raise it as a
He
nobody seconded it. I
Nobody
don't think so.
seconded that,
Yep.
so you second for both?
No, that was the first
You want it?
motion.
I'm going to withdraw my original amendment request, yeah.
All right. Councilor Hopkins is withdrawing the original amendment, and you're withdrawing your second, Councilor Finger, and we're going to go to Councilor Nelson.
My amendment?
The amendment to the proposed amendment, which will state that there will be resident parking only on Francis with towing.
That's it.
That is correct.
Second.
Okay. We have a, okay, and it has been seconded. I was just reiterating that.
Marie.
Okay. Okay, question,
Thank you.
discussion.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'm sorry, just for clarification, I understand fully the residential only, but with towing, who's going to pay for the towing? Is it the resident or the person who is violating that's going to be
Whoever
payable?
owns the car.
It's going to be paying the towing, okay. And just to make a comment here, traditionally, towns, Enfield specifically in this case, is not responsible, just to say it bluntly, for neighborhood disputes. However, because of the magnitude that this issue has risen to, it's something obviously that we have to address. I just want to make it clear that towns normally do not get involved in neighborhood issues, but because of the magnitude, this is what we're faced with. Thank you.
I think we need to be clear.
Yeah, it's 10 p.m., just these numbers, right? Just
Hmm?
here, just for 10 p.m. to 6 a.m.
No,
All that,
permanent, done.
all that.
All right, just before we make a vote on this, I'm just going to be it resolved that town council has agreed to have resident parking only on Francis with towing
At owner's expense.
at the owner's expense.
So is that your amendment now?
Well, it's just
Well-
clarification. Obviously, the town's not paying the tow.
Okay, I just have a question on time.
What's that?
There is no time.
I have
There
a
is no
question on
time.
time. So it's going to be 24 hours a day?
Correct.
That's his amendment.
Point of order, we still need the stickers.
No.
Today is too much.
Councilor Ludwig?
So through the mayor to the town manager, so if planning and zoning did an issue initial, I guess, shouldn't we understand that? And doesn't this sort of go against if they did rule that? I don't know if we did. Again, we don't have that information, right?
No, I'm going to pull it tomorrow, but my other concern, in addition to the site plan ramifications or approval, is whether this needs to go and be made part of an ordinance, and I'm trying to
I would think
research
it
whether
would.
Scantic is,
Mhm.
if that residential
I
neighbor
would think
program is.
I think it would, yeah.
I mean,
Counselor Fanger.
I mean, to ban the whole street 24 hours a day, I mean, he's got to have some kind of, he's got good customers coming at lunchtime and they're not out there urinating in anybody's house at lunchtime and say at night. I mean, I can't see a 24-hour ban. I mean, I won't agree with 24-hour ban, I'm sorry.
Bob, another question, unless it.
Counselor Despard.
Yeah, so I just wanted to offer that, I agree with Councilor Finger. That's too long, and I'm thinking if we're going to look into, and I know this is going to be unpopular, but if we're going to look into this planning and zoning issue, yeah, we should probably table this or renew the temporary parking ban another time and get some of these answers. So I'm probably not going to support the amendment just because it's not really settled. It feels a little on the fly. That's my 2 cents.
Counselor Hopkins.
I don't know if it's helpful or not. The way I think about this planning and zoning issue, so the town has municipal police powers under the state to regulate its roads within certain restrictions. I don't think planning and zoning has that authority. I mean, they can make decisions within their bailiwick, but I don't think that they have the ability to tie our hands when it comes to whether or not we want to regulate parking under the law. I could be wrong, and if Attorney Talberg has a thought, I'd be happy to hear that. I don't know if there's an additional amendment, if we're just limiting it to after 10 o'clock. I'm not wholly opposed to that. I just really want to see an extra level of enforcement here, because I think we're at that point.
To respond to the Councilor Hopkins, it seems quite unsettled to me, and I'm not really sure what it is. It does seem abrupt and on the fly, and I'm not quite sure that it would be enforceable, and I can't answer that question sitting here. So if we assume that the Planning and Zoning Commission did tell the business owner, you can have parking on the street, and the council overrides that, there may be legal issues and problems arising from that. I just don't know. I thought this was a simple resolution to renew the temporary permit parking program, which was, limited in scope, and I'm not clear if this would have an end date, and it does seem quite unsettled and unclear and on the fly, but those are my concerns.
Counselor Nelson.
Through the mayor to the town attorney, I asked you for a legal opinion you gave me in writing about this months ago, about banning parking on the street and what the recourse would be. And you just gave a totally different response to what you gave me in writing.
I'd respectfully disagree with that, Counselor. And for one thing, if there was going to be a more robust 24-hour ban in perpetuity, you would think it would be something that would be in the packet, and we could compare it to the opinion and the law and make sure that all the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted, and that it didn't need to be an ordinance. I don't have that opinion in front of me because I didn't realize that this was going to be amended at 9:40 tonight.
No, but maybe when we enacted the temporary one and we had all the problems, people would have started looking into this instead of waiting until it was going to expire again. This is insane.
I agree.
I mean, so pass this, and then you can send it to committee, and you can discuss it till you're blue in the face. But these people have a right to get a good night's sleep. We're in the summer months, and I'm saying only Francis Avenue because they're the only ones complaining. And they're the only ones who have shown us video after video. I support their business 1,000%. And that's why Highland Park's not here. I don't care about the rest of the streets. But they're not in here every meeting. So for us to say, oh, we forgot about this when they're in here every single meeting is absurd. And there's a motion on the floor to amend this, to pass it. So I don't want to wait anymore. No. And the town attorney can get another legal opinion down the road.
Councilor Despard, before we make the vote.
Yeah, we should vote on that. But I do want to mention that it wasn't, this is something that we had a conversation about in the Public Safety Committee, subcommittee. And, at this time, the feeling is it doesn't rise to a level of public safety. So that's why it didn't really belong in that committee. That was the feeling of the committee. So I'm not sure what committee you want to send it to. My recommendation here or whatever to pass this renewal, it comes on this information. I didn't have the information that the Planning and Zoning Commission may have offered this or told this business it would have that. I think that's worth us at least getting to know. And I didn't know that until just now. So that's where I'm coming from. And I think everyone up here is in a really difficult situation. And I think we're doing the best we can. And so I think this idea that we can sort of throw stones is just not okay. So yeah, that's it for me.
Councilor Mangini, and then we are going to vote on the motion.
I got one more.
You got another one.
Okay, along with Councilman Despard, I was unaware of the planning and zoning issue as well. And then also, we would really need to look at hours of this ban, because it wouldn't be fair to people to be banned, period, from parking on that street that are not residents. It doesn't make sense. We could be violating a planning and zoning rule, according to our town attorney. I don't want to expose our town to liability of any sort. So I really believe that we need to, I hate to say it, extend this temporary permit until we can get all our ducks in a row. Because right now the ducks are swimming somewhere else and we have no clue where they're all at. Thank you.
Councilor Nelson.
Okay, I'm going to say it, and I'm going to be blunt. I don't live in this district, okay? But a lot of his customers live in my district. I don't care about re-election. I care about what's right for our residents, and this is what's right. I'm sorry, don't re-elect me in November, because I don't care about election. A lot of you guys do, and that's why you're all dancing right now, because he has more customers than the residents on the street. I'm sorry, that's the way it is.
That's not a fair statement. I'm sorry.
I think it is.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Scala.
All right, so I really haven't said anything on this. In general, a lot of people up here have just tonight asked for additional information. So blaming one party versus the other doesn't make any sense. I will say I also didn't know anything about this planning and zoning. If he was told he could have something. That being said, if the program, sir.
Excuse me.
Point of order.
Excuse me. Point of order.
You don't have the floor, sir.
Excuse me.
You don't have the floor.
Excuse me.
One more time, and I'll ask you to leave.
A matter of fact, I'm going to ask you to leave right now. Right now, please.
I'm leaving. But anyway,
No, enough. All right? Enough.
You should watch the video. That's baloney. Anyway, that was fun. Prove it. Show the documentation. Show it. Yeah, you too.
So what I was saying was, if the current extension is 10 to 6 on 4 roads, Francis, Highland, Pequot, and Nonotuck, and we just want to add additional time on Francis Avenue with towing enforcement, I'm not sure that's actually going to make a difference to what planning and zoning would have offered or promised him had they offered him or told him he could do anything. That's how I'm looking at this. So I would think that if we are going to extend what we have, but add a additional time period or residential only on Francis Avenue, that might appease But that would just be what I would say. But let's be honest, there is no easy solution to this. I think everybody up here, we can do this until next November, and we're still going to ask for additional information because there's always going to be a new piece of the puzzle. So grandstanding or yelling or blaming other people is ridiculous. I honestly don't know what to do, and I think that's why we're all sitting here with a resolution that's not specific, because I don't think any of us have a perfect solution.
Councilor Nelson.
Okay, I agree with Councilman Sakala. And my counter to the planning and zoning issue is we're basically just permanently extending this and adding towing. How come they didn't come up in the last 3 months and challenge the planning and zoning and say, I got this, you can't do that to me. For the last 3 months it's been enacted. How come nobody brought that forward? And now all of a sudden that we're going to make a permanent move on one street only, because they're the only ones complaining, because I want them to succeed. He's done a lot for the community. He's invested a lot. And the only street complaining is Francis, so I don't want to shut down the other streets. And that also goes towards planning and zoning. He still can park on the streets, just not Francis. And that's where I'm willing to trade off. It stops them. It keeps him going. And that's why I said Francis only.
Okay, Councilor Despard.
Right, and I totally understand that, and believe me, there is a part of me that sees residents looking for relief, and I really want to give it to them. There's another part of me where there's a business here, and I don't want to hurt the business. So I think we're all in that situation. But what happens if we do this, and it's kind of on the fly right now, I think it should be done right, but then the people from Virginia Ave come, and they want it done, and then Woodland wants it done. And it just where does that end is my question, because it's not like his residents are going to stop going, right? They're going to find somewhere else to park, and it's going to be on another street, and that's the difficult part here. It's really easy to just ban this. Yeah, so that's what I'm struggling with.
All right, thank you. Deputy Mayor Sakala, then Councilor Hopkins.
Sorry, I agree. I think there's going to be a trickle-down effect, I really do. But can I ask procedurally, Sheila, are we still on the motion? Because I would actually offer my own amendment, but I don't want to.
We are on the second amendment, and I believe under Robert's rules, you cannot amend a third time.
Yep.
You would have to vote on this, up or down.
On the amendment.
And on the amendment, correct.
Okay.
The amendment has to be addressed.
Okay, because I would have an amendment. Obviously, we just can't vote on it. But my suggestion, and not an amendment, if we get there, my suggestion would be that we add a bullet point and say that it would be resident only on Francis Avenue, only, 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. with towing. And I would add that as the third bullet point, and then you would have to amend the resolution to say council renews the temporary residential parking program as noted above with the addition of bullet point 3. That would be my suggestion if we get there. Thanks.
Councilor Hopkins.
I appreciate Deputy Mayor Sakala's suggestion. I think that accommodates a lot of stuff here. But I mean, it's really, I think, about incentivizing things. So are patrons going to understand that they might get towed? Or are folks going to communicate that? I'm positive that that the business owner will share that with people. And if it's enforced, I think it won't take too many times for people to understand that. Will they move to another street? Perhaps. I do think Deputy Mayor Sakala's amendment here addresses that, because folks still wouldn't be able to park on the other streets. Wouldn't be enforced through towing, but that would still be kind of a cushion around that. I think that's a very fair compromise here.
The only question I have is this going to be for 90 days and we're going to see whether this works, or are we going to do this permanently and be done with it? Like, is the plan to, what if this isn't the answer? So are we doing this for a period of time? I don't
know if we can do permanent without an ordinance.
Scantic is not by ordinance.
Okay, so let's vote on the amendment, and then if we need to revisit, then we will revisit a third time. That's the amendment, is
read it. Wants to know what we're voting on.
Oh.
we are voting on that there will be resident-only parking with towing. There was no time frames on that.
Yep.
That would be it.
On Francis Avenue.
On Francis Avenue only, permanently. Okay, now we're gonna vote on that now,
That amendment.
on the amendment. Okay.
Counselor
Roll
Ludwig.
call.
Against.
Counselor Mangini.
Against.
Counselor Nelson. Counselor Pisner.
Against.
Counselor Santinella.
Against.
Counselor Ungary.
Against.
Deputy Mayor Sakala.
Against.
Mayor Crisati.
Against.
Counselor Despard.
Against.
Counselor Finger.
Against.
Counselor Hopkins.
4.
That's 2 in favor and 9 against.
Now can I be recognized?
Okay, now, Counselor, Deputy Mayor Sakala.
Okay, so now I will preface my amendment with, I understand this is not going to make everybody happy. There is no easy solution. I would suggest that we try this and see what happens. And we are sorry to everybody in the room. The sign of a good mediation is that everybody leaves equally as unhappy as the other person. So my amendment would be that we would add a third bullet point that says parking on Francis Avenue will be resident only from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. and violators shall be towed. And at their own expense. And so I would say the resolution would be amended to state the council renews the temporary residential parking program as indicated above with the addition of bullet point 3.
I second that.
Okay, so there is,
That was as clear
okay,
as I
seconded by Counselor Finger. All right, discussion.
So it's it's 10 p.m. now. We're moving it to 8 p.m. Okay, I'm just not sure the reason for that.
Counselor Pisner.
Okay, so is this permanent now, or is it just going to be for another 120 days, or what are we doing?
8 p.m.
Is it, what are you thinking? Gee.
It's the 120 days, like you said.
Counselor Santinella. I-
120 days. That says it on here. Okay.
Correct, it does say an additional 120 days.
Make sure we didn't change that.
Wait a minute. I need.
Town Manager Zappo.
So
Sasu.
I
Please.
appreciate
Okay.
the attempts to craft something here, but I think it might be better if you abandon the language that is here and you just start fresh, because I'm confused, because this is actually a recitation of what's happened, this resolution, and it references temporary, it references 120 days. That was really only November to March and then renewed in March. I think you should, whatever motion you make, I think should just be clean and not attached to the history of what this resolution
So just a
represents,
plain
which is,
separate one.
right.
Okay.
So I would, well, you already voted it down. I'll turn to Sheila for guidance as to what happens now, but I think you need to structure a motion that is in the, this is what we're going to do as opposed to this. And then the questions are, is there a time frame? Is it permanent? What happens to Highland Park, Pequot, and Nonotuck? Because there is going to be a parking displacement. If this is going into effect on Francis, they may be quiet now, but understand that that parking situation will move to surrounding streets, including some that might not be mentioned on here. So I think you start with your focus, if that's Francis, and then build out from there time-wise, both for hours as well as how long, or is this going to be a trial basis to see if it works and if there are impacts in other neighborhoods? But I think just trying to amend something that is not really what your aim is going to handicap this.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yes, Deputy Mayor Scala.
So can I ask a clarifying question that then theoretically, if we vote to extend what's in front of us now, do we have the ability to vote on a new one next month? So we have 30 days more of what's in place now, and this through the mayor to probably the town attorney and the town manager. Let's say we vote to extend this as it is in our packet right now. In our August meeting, can we then have a cleaned version of something that we have all just discussed and vote on it before the 120 days is up?
You can. So the recommendation, which is the addendum, because the recommendations didn't print in your packets, was that you could accept, modify, do any of those things. And you can still do that tonight, but I just feel that the parameters are kind of all over the place, so you need to focus what streets, if any, the other streets, what's the time frame, temporary or permanent. There's all these little pieces that we need to take in order to create whatever this new policy is going to be for this specific neighborhood.
Okay, so
I tend to agree with you, Maya.
could we be in agreement that we would extend the temporary residential permit parking until our next council meeting in August and have the new resolution, nice clean copy of what we just stated in regard to the time frame of 8 p.m. to 6 a.m., resident parking only with towing paid at the owner's expense, and have that in a clean copy, and then we would move forward with that. So if if we can just hang on for a couple of more weeks and extend it out to our next meeting is August
My first.
20th or 21st? Okay? And then we can
I
move
think
from
there's
there.
still a motion on the table unless that's being withdrawn. Okay.
I don't know. I think Doug
No,
seconded.
Doug,
Which I can
yes.
withdraw my motion if that's
Yeah,
fine, but.
all right, with
Yeah, I can withdraw my motion.
motion withdrawn, yes. Counselor Nelson.
So I agree with what you're trying to do, Bob, but nobody has come here from any other street. And we all say we support their business. So why are we keeping the parking ban on the other streets? I mean, they do need places to park. That's why I only wanted Francis Avenue.
We just said Francis, that's all.
But if
We
you're
didn't-
extending what's in place, that's all of those streets.
Well, that's just till our next meeting.
Yeah, it's
That's
only
all.
10 to 6 too.
Until we get the actual, it's just for a few more weeks. Okay? All right. Okay. All right, so that's what we're going to do. So do we need a motion on this to move forward with a new resolution that we will, okay, no, we will, excuse me? So once again, be it resolved, the town council renews the temporary residential permit parking program until August 21st.
And that has already been moved by Counselor Hopkins and seconded by Counselor Finger.
Okay, so let's just vote on that then. Okay, all right, very good. Sheila, roll call.
Counselor Ludwig?
4.
Counselor Mangini.
For.
Counselor Nelson.
Against.
Counselor Pisner.
For.
Counselor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
For.
Deputy Mayor Sakala.
For.
Mayor Corsati.
Or
Counselor Despard.
4.
Counselor Finger.
4.
Counselor Hopkins.
4.
That's 10 in favor, 1 against.
Okay, moving onward, the next two items have agreements that were circulated to the council a couple of weeks ago, and we had some time to review, and we also discussed in executive session earlier tonight. The next resolution is J, the resolution authorizing the town manager to sign a real estate purchase contract on behalf of the town of Enfield for the sale of certain real property, collectively the Thompsonville Transit-Oriented Development Project Site consisting of 17 North Main Street, 19 Church Street, 1 Church Street, 2 Chapel Street, 21 Church Street, 16 Pleasant Street, and a portion of 5 Church Street, and a portion of unidentified parcel that is located easterly of 17 North Main Street. Be it resolved that Ellen Zapusasu, the town manager, or her designee, is authorized to sign the real estate purchase contract on behalf of the town of Enfield for the sale of the Thompsonville Transit-Oriented Development Project Site to Impact Residential Development, LLC. Be it further resolved that Ellen Zapusasu, the town manager or designee, is authorized to sign all documents, including the deed, on behalf of the town of Enfield pertaining to the sale of the property to Impact Residential Development, subject to review and approval by the town attorney. Date prepared 7/11/2023. Date prepared by the Office of Economic and Community Development. To Councilor Mangini, and a second by Councilor Santinella. Discussion. Councilor Nelson.
So the original proposal was 120-something units, which included acquiring a bunch of properties that abutted this. Now it's 70 units, and there's 41 off-site parking spots. Those are parking spots that Corona's customers may use, the potential microbrewery may use at the firehouse, the new hair salon, and that building that he just did all that work to. So, Mike, why don't they continue to buy one of these abutting properties so they can put adequate parking on site? Now, comments were made that, due to the fact that it's subsidized housing, it requires less parking. Well, the word subsidized, meaning, so it's subsidized, which needs less parking, but another word that people are using now to spin this is workforce housing. So workforce housing would mean people are going to work. So you'd have 2 cars per unit because they're going to work. Subsidized isn't workforce, and you need less cars. So the train station, we've been talking about this train station for 20 years, and there's nothing there. So we're doing this because it's transit-oriented district with a train station that's not there. And that's why they can try to get away with less parking. Well, shouldn't we wait till the train's here first? What happens if the train station never comes? Because we know the state of Connecticut has played games with this for over 20 years. People have said about putting the cart before the horse. Well, I think that's what's happening here. And, the purchase price, 200, whatever it is, we owe Conservation Commission $261,000 of it, so that's a net profit to the taxpayers. I don't want to use the word profit because it cost $1.5 million or $4 million to tear everything down. So the taxpayers would get $2,000 for this, and it cost them $1.5 million to tear it down. That don't add up in my book. And again, I stand behind, leave it vacant, put some more community gardens on it, and let's wait for the right developer, because putting in subsidized housing with no retail aspect to it is not what the RFP was. And again, it was a bait and switch, and I can't believe you're considering it.
Councilor Santinella.
Yeah, I said this last time, and it just dumbfounds me that 4 years ago, the council that you guys were in charge of decided that we should rip down those 2 buildings, which were generating absolutely no benefit to the neighborhood, in the hopes of putting a building like this in, which would increase the tax base down there. And you want to just tell people to accept that we should put flowers and tomato plants? How much are they going to pay in taxes? That is completely against what you guys set out to do, which we all bought into. And the fact that you are now, again, I can't believe we're talking about bringing commercial buildings into Thompsonville, and the parking issues that are going to resolve will just make Thompsonville resident parking. Where are those people going to park? I don't understand how we could be right on the cusp of putting in something that's going to change the dynamic of the neighborhood, affordable workforce housing that is going to bring a different dynamic economically to the community that you guys started. You guys started this, and now you're upset because there's not a hairdresser in there or a flower shop or a coffee shop? Come on. This is just not my idea. We're going to just pass on this. I can't sit here and just watch you guys do that. It's crazy.
Councilor Hopkins.
A couple points. I think just about all housing that's built in the U.S., at least apartment housing, multifamily housing, is subsidized, except unless it's luxury. I mean, there is a lot of money that the federal government incentivizes and state government incentivizes, just how it's done. And I think it's good that housing is built, because then people come to our community. And, if folks dislike working class people, I think that's unfortunate. But this is a real mixture. And folks with higher incomes are going to spend their money locally, even if there's no train station. I think that's a good thing for Enfield, but I don't think there's any reason to doubt that there will be a train station. We have additional money coming in as a result of the train station development. We're going to try to get as much as we can. I think it's a good idea that the developers are using this development as an additional funnel for state money. I think that's a good thing because it's coming into the Enfield community. I look forward to seeing this built, and I'm pro families moving to Enfield because they're going to spend their money here. They're going to be part of the community, and I think we all benefit from that.
Councilor Pisner.
When they first came to us, John, and they gave us their first rendition, it was exactly what I wanted for Thompsonville. Exactly. And then they came back, tripled the apartments, took away all the storefronts on the bottom. Now they're coming back, 70 apartments. They keep changing. The first rendition was what we wanted. That's all. That's what I wanted. That's what I think we all agreed on. Mixed use. Mixed use. Not just a gym for their people, not just a community room for the people that live in the apartment, but a mixed use. That's what we need in Thompsonville, not 70 more apartments, especially now when we could possibly be looking at more apartments at Felician. We don't need all these apartments. We need mixed use, especially in Thompsonville. You want to give it a little city feel, then that's what you need. So I'm going to vote no on this because, number one, it's not what they sold us on the first one. That's what I bought into, was that first plan. So I'm a no.
Councilor Despard.
If the economy down there currently was viable for a mixed-use development, it would be going in there. The problem is we're not there yet. So you have to take steps towards that, and we're not there yet. The fact that, I want that too. It's just Thompsonville's not ready for that yet. You do this to get ready for something like that. And so we've been talking about redeveloping Thompsonville for decades. 30 years it might be more than that. I just wasn't paying attention. So in some of the rhetoric you're hearing right now is the reason why there's been no redevelopment going on down there. This is a world-class developer, tens of millions of dollars investment. It's just a no-brainer, and I will be supporting this.
Councilor Santinella, and
So
then I have
look,
something.
I know what we saw the first time. We all fell in love with it. It just wasn't practical. We ran into the parking issue. There were too many units, so they cut down the units to accommodate the parking. But Marie, what's next door? There's commercial development going on right next door. And the more people you bring down there, the more viable commercial real estate becomes. And I said this to you guys before. The biggest disaster is failed commercial real estate. And if we don't have people there to support the commercial real estate, it's going to just spin into another downward spiral. And now I know Councilor Nelson is going to say, well, the people that are moving into these houses aren't going to be able to afford to go to a $7 coffee shop. That is completely not true. That's not the nature of workforce housing. So I know that it's not exactly what we fell in love with, but it's not a horrendous second option that accomplishes some pretty big goals which we set out to accomplish. That's all I got to say on that.
Okay. Well, just a couple of comments. You know, for decades we've been talking about this. Now we have an opportunity to move forward with this particular development. We've had these conversations several times. It's the same story that we're hearing with the conversations. We are making a commitment. We are making a commitment to, you know, whether you want to call it workforce housing, subsidized housing. I don't look at it that way. I'm looking at it in a holistic look where you're getting young adults who are starting off in their careers, and you're going to want to be established in a nice section with a nice housing unit that is going to be developed over here. You know, I'm just, you know, young adults coming into town. This is what we need. This is what we're looking for. They've changed the scope of the project, which you wanted. They changed the scope of that. The train station is for real, Ken, if you still don't believe that. The train station construction will be starting in 2025 of March. That's a fact, that's a reality. So if you think that project is going to go and blame the state of Connecticut that this project isn't going to happen, I think you're wrong there, okay? And well, we're going to move forward. I am total support of this. I was in support of the first project. I was in support of the second project. I was in support of it a few years ago when we first started talking about this, but nobody had the nerve to want to even touch those buildings and take them down. We made that commitment. We did that. Nobody else wanted to touch it because that property was too close to that, and they were concerned about, you know, the property belongs to both of the property owners. But you know what? We made a commitment to doing it. We got it done. Everybody got it done. I'm not looking at your side, our side. We got it done. So, you know, once again, you know, we want to look at expanding the diversity of our housing stock in here. This is perfect. And if there's more housing units that happen at Felician Sisters, there's not going to be many of them, not like that original project that went through, you know. So I am, you know, I'm definitely in favor of this, and the vision for Thompsonville, we have to keep moving forward with, period. So, Sheila, roll call.
Councilor Ludwig.
Against.
Councilor Mangini.
For.
Councilor Nelson.
Against.
Councilor Pisner.
Against.
Councilor Santinella. Councilor Ungary.
Against.
Deputy Mayor Sakala. For. Mayor Crisati.
For.
Councilor Despard.
For.
Councilor Finger.
For.
Councilor Hopkins.
For.
And Councilor sorry, I already got you, Councilor Ludwig. Okay, there's 7 in favor, 4 against.
Resolution K, This is dealing with the resolution to approve the fixed tax assessment for Fast Track Realty. We have to wait. All right, item K, this is the resolution that we had talked about, and the resolution reads the following. The subject of resolution to approve the fixed tax assessment for Fast Track Realty, be it resolved that the Town Council approve the fixed tax assessment agreement with Fast Track Realty in conformance with the requirements of Connecticut General Statute S. 12-65B, and authorize the town manager to execute the agreement, date prepared 7/17/2023, prepared by Ellen Zapusasu, town manager.
So moved.
Councilor Mangini.
Second.
And a second by Deputy Mayor Sakala.
Mr.
Councilor?
Mayor, yeah, I would like to make a motion that we table this. There were some discussions that we had about making some amendments to this related to fixing the assessment at a specific dollar amount, what the current assessed value is, and the attorneys needed some time to kind of put that language into this document. And so I would like to make a motion that we table this, let the attorneys make the change, and we take this up at the next.
I'll second that.
I'll second it. Okay, second by Councilor Hopkins. All in favor? Unanimous. This item will be tabled until we get all the further information for the tax assessment. Okay, we'll move forward. Item L, discussion resolution waiving bids for the purchase of bulk chemicals at the Enfield Water Pollution Control Facility. This is the scenario for the bid waiver has not changed since we first did this in November. The administration is asking to extend. Once again, be it resolved that in accordance with Chapter 5, Section 8D of the Enfield Town Charter, the Enfield Town Council does hereby determine that it is against the best interests of the town to require competitive bidding for supplemental carbon, liquid polymer, and sodium hydrochloride, date prepared 7/11/2023, date, prepared by Donald T. Nunes, Director of Public Works.
So moved.
Deputy Mayor Sakala, and a second by Councilor Ungary. Any discussion on this?
Sorry, quick question.
Yep. Councilor Ludwig.
Just for the record, what is the company we're waiving? I mean, just if future, can we just have the company name and that we're waiving the bid for? I know we used to do that. Just for the record, I mean, I know you gave us, but I think for the public to know exactly who we're waiving it for.
Yeah, we've been.
Welcome.
Thank you. Welcome.
Donald Nunes.
Welcome, Donald. Thank you.
So, Councilor Ludwig, we've actually been changing polymer, like the supplemental carbon has been, that market's been calming down along with the chlorine. So that's a good step. It's calming down, but the polymer has been extremely difficult to get, even though we've changed vendors already. And for those who don't know, to change the polymer, which thickens up the cake, like Deputy Mayor Sakala's favorite topic is that thickens up the cake to make cake, and that's when we bring it down there. It takes a minimum of 7 days for us to switch over to a different polymer, and out of that 7 days, there's an additional 2 days of testing to make sure that we are doing it correctly. So it's not a thing that's taken lightly by changing polymers and changing vendors. The original one we had just told us outright 1 week we can't get it anymore. Then we went to another one, then we're going to another one. So we don't even know where we're getting it from. I mean, we do right now for polymer, but it may change in a month.
Thank you for the explanation. Fair enough. Thank you.
And then we're just respectfully asking for just 6 months, like you suggested before. Yep.
Thank you, Donald. Greatly appreciated. Sheila, excuse me, we do have one more.
I don't.
Councilor Finger?
I don't.
That goes.
Hey, question for you. Do you think we should start looking into just liquid hauling? Because once we dry that cake out, I heard that our cake is drier than when we dump it back down to MDC and they put it back right in their systems just to dry it out again. Might we start thinking about maybe just doing liquid hauling?
We're required right now we haul 25% solids to our. That's what the MDC wants right now. So that's what we're providing, plus or minus a 0.5% here and there. So we're at their maximum limit right now for 25%.
And at the mercy, because that's where you have to bring it. Yeah,
correct.
I was just curious. That's all.
Yeah,
Thanks.
that's what we're doing.
Thank you, Donald. Sheila, roll call, please.
Counselor Ludwig?
4.
Counselor Mangini?
4.
Counselor Nelson?
4.
Counselor Pisner? 4. Counselor Santinella?
4.
Counselor Ungary? 4. Deputy Mayor Sakala? 4. Mayor Crisati?
4.
Counselor Despard?
4.
Counselor Finger?
4.
And Counselor Hopkins?
4.
11 in favor, none against.
Okay, item M, discussion resolution, the request for the transfer of funds for the replacement of the passenger elevator at the town hall of $175,000. The bids came in over what was in the budget, so we need additional appropriation. Be it resolved that in accordance with Chapter 6, Section 8F of the Town Charter, the following transfer is hereby made from the general fund transfers and contingency, $175,000 to the general fund transfers and contingency, transfer to capital, $175,000 from the capital and non-recurring fund, CNR fund revenue of $175,000. To the TH elevator construction, $175,000, date prepared 7/11/2023, prepared by Donald T. Nunes, Director of Public Works.
So moved.
Councilor Mangini, and a second by Councilor Despard.
Question?
Discussion, Councilor Pisner.
This seems awful cheap to me for a new elevator.
This is the second time we went out to bid. This is for a modernization, it's called. So we're actually keeping, if you will, the carcass of it.
Okay.
Where we're going to replace the inside, so the interior is redone, all the control modules are done,
Okay.
everything is done there. We're not going to take it completely 100% out. So
Okay.
we're going to use basically the shell of it and modernize it through that way.
That makes sense. I was looking at this as a whole new elevator going, I did the elevator over at St. Pat's, and I'm looking at this number going, there's absolutely no way that this could be.
Yep.
Okay, but I get it now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Ludwig.
So is the cost 175, or I thought it says in addition to something?
Yeah,
right?
we already have appropriated 150,000.
So
This is in addition.
right,
This is in
okay.
addition to,
Thank
correct.
you, yep, okay.
Okay, thank you, Donald. Sheila, roll call.
Counselor Ludwig?
4.
Counselor Mangini?
4.
Counselor Nelson? 4. Counselor Pisner?
4.
Counselor Santinella?
4.
Counselor Ungary? 4. Deputy Mayor Sakala? 4. Mayor Crisati?
4.
Counselor Despard?
4.
Counselor Finger?
4.
And Counselor Hopkins?
4.
11 in favor, none against.
Item N, discussion resolution, the request for a transfer of funds for the HVAC and air quality analysis at the Enfield Public Schools, $113,000. Be it resolved that in accordance with Chapter 6, Section 8F of the Town Charter, the following transfer is hereby made from general fund, transfers out in contingency of $113,000 to the general fund, transfer to capital, $113,000 from capital non-recurring fund, the CNR fund revenue, transfer from general fund, $113 to capital non-recurring fund of the heating system schools construction service of $113,000, date prepared 7/13/2023, prepared by Donald T. Nunes, Director of Public Works. Councilor Mangini, and a second by Councilor Ungary. Any questions on this? Sensing none, Sheila, roll call.
Counselor Ludwig?
4.
Counselor Mangini?
4.
Counselor Nelson? 4. Counselor Pisner? 4. Counselor Santinella?
4.
Counselor Ungary? 4. Deputy Mayor Sakala? 4. Mayor Crisati?
4.
Counselor Despard?
4.
Counselor Finger?
Sorry, 4.
And Counselor Hopkins?
4.
11 in favor, none against.
Okay, next, public communications. Once again, I want to remind you, if you do come forward, you will have 3 minutes to address the council. Please refrain from any personnel matters, personal attacks, and once again, please state your name and address for the record.
Kelly Himmler, 10 Hartford Ave. It's a huge loss to Enfield to hear that Karen LaPlante is not on the Conservation Commission. I hope that can be rectified. She's got a lot of institutional knowledge about conservation, and I think it's a huge loss. So just wanted to say that.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Mr. Budd?
Joel Budd, Francis Avenue, Enfield. It just baffles me that you had 240 days to figure something out and you did not a damn thing. I don't understand it. I mean, could somebody explain that to me, how you just let everything ride until the day of your voting and nothing happened? And the other guy over here, I was told by the contractor that did the work over there, said he's going to have problem with parking. He doesn't have enough parking. So I don't know what the zoning told him or what he says they told him, but that's a crack of... So what's the problem? You guys had a 40 days to figure something out and nobody did anything. Can somebody explain that to me? I guess not, right? I would like to see these people in front of your house. I would love to see that. Just come over there for a couple nights and do what they're doing over at our house. Would you like it? No, you wouldn't. You would not. You'd be the first one crying, probably. Every one of you. You disgust me. A whole bunch. It ain't over, Ken. You're right, it's not. You're right.
Nikki Price, 1324 Enfield Street. I just want to ask a clerical or point of order. The Trinity Farms refund, I thought it was a clerical error by the town assessor, not them missing their appeals. That's my understanding of it from everything that's been going on. So if I'm wrong, please correct me. Now, the residents, when we were going through Felician Sisters, so many townspeople came up to me and said, we're with you. This is wrong for Enfield, it's wrong for the neighborhood, it's wrong for the historic district. And I would say to them, come to a meeting and state it. Okay, now for Francis Avenue, I haven't said anything, but I just need to say this. It's Lady Justice. Here's Lady Justice. Property owners, business owners. So the scales have to tip somehow, and the solution has to be made. And I know it's very difficult for you, but residents need a tranquil place. And homeowners, that's their castle. Okay? The business, yes, but the burden is on the business for the town to make sure the residents are happy. Number one. Number two, I think it was just folly for a couple members of this council just to take word that the planning and zoning said it was planning and zoning extra parking. You are council members. You cannot make a statement until you know for fact that it is true. Okay, workforce housing is not a recognizable wording when applying for state or federal money. So I just want to put that out and put that on the record. And lastly, I wasn't going to say anything about the Felician Sisters, but since it was brought up, I was disappointed when I learned a member of this governing body told the state representatives that the neighborhood was 100% in favor of the new plans that they have. We're not 100%. We have concerns, great concerns, and still have concerns. So when I found that out, I called Representative Maloney, I called Representative Hong, and I called Senator Kissel's office to tell him that statement by a member of this council was incorrect. And I just think it's a disadvantage to the neighborhood and to the residents. And lastly, Judy James, I think that's her name, of the Felician Sisters has to stop going around and telling everybody that we are in favor of this, because I understand that Senator Kessel had a meeting with a walk-around with the state, and I think my time is up, and I thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to come to the council?
Ken Bedard, 27 Burnham Street. Joel was just up here saying he was disgusted with you because you haven't done anything. Again, the burden falls on the residents and or our business, to come to some resolution. End of the day, we have gone to the table with the residents. We've had big meetings at the pub, invited everybody, and we've had smaller meetings with just the main where the problems are existing for the most part. 3 or 4 residents on a Sunday morning. Ellen made it up at 9 o'clock on a Sunday morning. And we came to the table and nothing is good enough for the residents. They just want to have a private road at the expense of the town. If they want a private community, give it to them. Make it an HOA, because that's what they're asking for. They want nobody on their street except for the people that reside there. Make it an HOA. Give them let them buy a gate for the end of the street, protect their properties that way. Put a sign up, Francis Avenue Estates, whatever you want. But at the end of the day, right now, it's a public road, and that should not be taken away from us. I was in the zoning office with my contractor, the architect, myself, and Rick Rochelle, and he said overflow parking on the streets to go on Highland Park and Francis Avenue. That was told to us last year. In fact, the zoning department held us up because of the parking, because we were limited on parking, and we had to restructure the capacity. And so we lost capacity with the renovations because we made the room smaller, made it nicer, but we made it smaller, so we lost 25% or 25 seats in the restaurant. So I'm still willing to work with the residents if they will come to the table and be receptive to some of the compromises that we've offered. They've offered nothing. The only thing they've offered is resident parking only. And I get their concerns for their quality of life. And we were out there for those 2 weekends on the one thing that they did compromise on, and we mitigated all the problems. The only thing that happened was somebody went to their car and they came back up the street and they had the radio bumping. And I tried to stop the car and yell at them for being obnoxious. But you can't control everything, but I tried. We did our best, and it worked. It worked the best it could. And I'm sorry that they want just a private road for themselves. It's a public road that we all pay taxes on, and it's got to stop. The signs need to come down. I will go back out there, and we will do our best to mitigate the issues. And if I have to go back to cleaning the streets, I'll do it. If whatever it takes, I'll do it. I want to be successful having a relationship with the residents and the business, because at the end of the day, we all live there. I'm not going anywhere, they're not going anywhere, and I'd like to get along. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Ken. Is there anybody else? Yep.
Melanie Dubio, 4 Francis Avenue. So in regards to picking up the garbage on the street that he says that he's done and he's hired help for, I've had to go out there and pick up the garbage. The vomit is still sitting in front of my house, and this is, again, after the rainstorms. Okay, the boxes, the garbage on my front lawn. And when we tried working with him of having his family park in front of the houses, yeah, that lasted maybe an hour or so. And next thing you know, I'm like, they're all the way down the street. So it wasn't just his family. He's telling all the people to go down the street and park. Yes, he had them dropped off in the front, But at 2:30 in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, they're all going down there. And I'm just wondering who's going to pay for the damage that his patrons are causing on my property. Because again, you know, we've been fighting this for a year and nothing's been done. So I had to deal with my property getting vandalized and urinating on my lawn and everything else. I'm sorry, but I was there first. This was not going on 20 years ago when it was just a restaurant. So no, he's not doing what he's saying he's doing. He's telling you that. And if that's the case, that the planning and zoning said that he could park on the streets, well, what happened with the entertainment? Because he wasn't allowed to have entertainment, but he was having it. And now we're all the way in court. So I think everybody needs to get facts straight and either find out, okay, yeah, the planning and zoning said that he could park on the streets, because I've been up there numerous times to the office to complain, and not one time have they ever said that. So I think he's a liar, and he's telling you what you want to hear.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, exactly, Ken.
Okay, is there anybody else that would like to approach the council tonight?
Karen LaPlante, 166 North Maple Street. Let's try to end this long meeting, on a positive note. I want to thank you for passing the open space ordinance. It's very much appreciated. I do have an appointment with the town manager for interview regarding reappointment. I hope that goes well. The Conservation Commission looks forward to receiving their money from 2 Chapel Street to put back at their fund. And just 2 sayings that I have on my refrigerator. This one, I think, came from a toothpaste commercial. Be the reason someone smiles today. And try to live by that every day. And the second one is, our lives are the sum of our decisions. So be happy with the decisions you make, and hopefully they'll all work out. Thank you. Good night.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to come forward? Okay, public communications are closed. Thank you. Is there any final comments? Councilor Hopkins.
Try to be brief here. I apologize. I wasn't able to attend the special meeting before this meeting. In the tax assessment agreement for the Mass Mutual property, it talks about assigning the lease, and I know there's been assigning the benefit of the tax agreement. There's been some concern about that previously. Is there a way to make sure that it talks about in Section 8 the usage of the property? So, however, FTR may assign or transfer the benefits and incentives authorized pursuant to the agreement and its rights and obligations under the agreement to a successor if the facility continues to be used for the purposes described. Is there a way to limit that? What I'm concerned is maybe down the way it's not as profitable to run the fields and maybe they just do the hotel or vice versa. I would prefer to see that. I don't know if that's feasible, but I would love the town attorney's thoughts if that's possible.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Councilor Finger and a second by Councilor Mangini. All in favor? Good night, everyone.